now our bi-weekly show. Is it bi-weekly? Bi-weekly is that uh,
It's double weekly.
double weekly,
Twice a week.
twice a week. I wanted to use a fancy term, but you know what? We're just gonna go with it. It's twice a week. The Night Owl. It's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm Price of Reason, and I'm here with my co-host Dread Roberts. How's it going, Dread?
Dude, it's going great. It's going fantastic. I see that we've got a lot to talk about today. The world is getting crazier. It's nice to have streams like this where we can chill and just talk about things.
And every time we have this stream, it feels like there's so much to talk about. That's the funny thing is that you never know. I mean, there could be a quiet day and maybe there'll be nothing to talk about, but that never happens. It's almost usually I feel like there's even too many things to talk about. I think to start thinking to myself, how do we talk about all this stuff in the amount of time that we have, which is usually a few hours? And lately we've been talking even more because there's so many developments. So
Yeah.
today we're going to talk about there was Paramount. Uh, there's something called CinemaCon now. It's basically historically it's sort of something to get theaters excited, showing them the kind of output you have. Today I think maybe it's also for social media, for press, for things like that. So Paramount had their big day today of revealing different projects that they're working on, and we're going to go talk about that. How they stack when you look at whatever Disney's working on these days, and if they have a chance to make some money on their projects. The other thing is that there's obviously a lot of GamerGate stuff happening, and it's good that we're two people here, and you're kind of an expert when it comes to this GamerGate stuff because I, there's so much happening in one day. I kind of am figuring out all the Paramount stuff. It's always good that you're on top of the GamerGate stuff, even though because we're both on Twitter, I feel like we start running into each other's fields. Meaning, you see some stuff that's happening more in the Paramount, but I also see
Yeah.
what's happening on with the GamerGate. But it
Yeah, our cases are connected.
right. So
No,
yes,
that's fun times, man.
and
We can barely keep up with everything, like you said.
right, and that's even Empress and M is mentioning that there will be no more Ford Bronco chases now. And yes, I mean, I didn't really know what to say. It's strange. Usually, a celebrity or somebody dies, you say, well, you think about some good things to say about it. And sometimes it's even a guy that maybe had a problematic past, but you say, well, he did have his positive side. But when it comes to the guy that passed away today, I don't really know what to say. I try.
Yeah.
I'm not the type of person that wants to say negative things. Even about him, I don't enjoy seeing something bad about somebody that's passed away. And at the same time, there doesn't seem to be much good to say about him.
Well, there was one thing that I said today that, when I saw the Beetlejuice 2 teaser and he said the juice is loose at the end, I really did not think anything of it until this happened. I just think that that was just such a weird thing because like I like it just as soon as that happened and that news started spreading on social media, all I kept seeing from people was the juice is loose. And all I kept thinking back to was at the end of the Beetlejuice 2 trailer, which is about, dead people. And the line that he chooses is the juice is loose. And I just think that is just such a weird thing. And it's all I could think about. So it's all I could post. Otherwise, you know, people have their thoughts about the man.
Right.
So, it is what it is.
It is what it is. There's not really much we can do. Uh, we can try to be good people. I mean, I don't go out of my way and think that I want bad things to happen to people. Uh, he was a controversial person, and I just
Yes.
don't know really what to say about it. But yes, it was strange that Beetlejuice just used him as sort of a reference. Even the fact that he was a reference was kind of weird, but this even made it even weirder somehow. Uh,
It's so interesting. He's lived such an interesting life that when I've watched him, I never really expected him to come back. Because remember, he came back a while back, and it's payback time. All those people who, all those people who were against me, they're gonna learn from their mistakes or whatever. I don't think he was like physically threatening them or anything. He's just saying he's going to get payback for the people that put him away and all the people who doubted him or whatever. And then for this to happen suddenly, it is just those things come so suddenly, and it's like he had this whole plan, and he had so much going on already that it's just so shocking to see him just gone suddenly. And that's probably why there's such a huge uproar about it, because
Yeah,
I think people had expectations.
I think that what happened is that maybe people thought, I don't know. Relatively speaking, considering the things that he may or may not have done, he seemed to have, at the end, he spent some time in jail, but he lived enough years playing golf and doing whatever he did. It kind of felt like he just sort of, all things considered, he, I don't want to say got away with it because that's not true, but things could have been worse for him. That's all I'll say.
Hey, yep. And that's why it is what it is, right?
Right, right. And somebody says here that he ran the football well, and I suppose that's true. But that's our memorial segment. Now we can dig more into the entertainment news side of it. So today we had the CinemaCon thing with Paramount. Now Paramount, this is an interesting story because Paramount, when it comes to their finances, are not doing well at all. A lot of
Mm.
these big studios, in the past 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is, they got a lot of these grand ideas. They do streaming. They invest all this money in all these productions, and the landscape keeps changing. And there was this kind of euphoria during the coup when more people were watching streaming, and everybody thought, "Oh, I want to be the biggest streamer. I want to be Netflix." But at the end, Netflix remained Netflix because they were here first, and they somehow have some kind of business model that works for them, and they somehow make money. I'm not saying that everything you see on Netflix is good, but they
Mhm.
they know how to turn a profit, and most of these other streaming services don't know how to do it. Paramount
Mm.
have had some cool original shows, but I guess between all of their expenses and everything that they're doing as a studio, they're not doing well. Their stock isn't doing great. They're not doing well at all. Now there's a company called Skydance actually produces a lot of their big brands like Mission Impossible, like I other things. I forgot the other one that's important.
So I think that's a lot of quite a few J.J. Abrams productions, or
Well,
Skydance and Bad Robot.
I think that Mission Impossible, there was a moment in time that JJ had something to do with it, but at some point he didn't anymore, which to me is a sign because Tom Cruise is not an idiot and he has a lot of say of what goes on there. Initially, I feel like he brought JJ when everybody said he was great, and I feel like just at the right time, he kind of pushed JJ aside and he only directed one movie, JJ. It's not like he said, "Oh, you got to direct all the movies moving forward." He did that one movie and then he kind of was pushed aside, in my opinion. Maybe done in a
Yeah.
way that they didn't want to humiliate or embarrass him, but I don't see Tom Cruise sitting around talking about J.J. Abrams too much.
Well, they had a huge step up with Brad Bird, in my opinion, when they had a Ghost Protocol come out after MI3. I think they went the right direction, moving away from JJ. But it used to be like way back in the day, I was actually a fan of his before I really just started getting into movies and seeing what kind of things were missing from those films. But back then, I was all about it. But now looking back, there were Mission Impossible has evolved past that, that childish, infantile way of looking at Mission Impossible, and the plots have gotten more complex and more high octane, and I think that it's in a good place right now because of Tom Cruise moving in that direction.
Well,
Um,
basically, he found Christopher McQuarrie. I agree. Brad Bird with Ghost Protocol really revived the franchise there.
yeah,
I wasn't too keen on what J.J. Abrams did. The only thing that he was lucky is that he had Philip Seymour Hoffman in that third movie, and Philip
yeah,
Seymour Hoffman, even with a weak script, at least seems like he's a villain, even when he's saying the dumbest sentences. But
yeah. He
Brad,
did a great job.
right, he did the best he could under the circumstances. But Brad Bird was a level above, and he really took it to another direction. And then Christopher McQuarrie, he showed up around the time of Brad Bird. He was writing first, and then he sort of became Cruise's production partner and director. I feel like they sort of are a duo with these kind of movies. Oh, it's Top Gun
Yeah,
also. They have Top Gun and they have Mission Impossible. So there have been enough things that Skydance have already had a business and dealings with Paramount, and Paramount. You have Sherry Redstone. She's
Okay.
boss there, but at the same, she owns a lot of shares and all that stuff. But the Skydance thing, that's Ellison. I think it's David Ellison, the son of Larry Ellison. Also, some billionaire media. This is all like billionaire media moguls politics. But at the end of the day, it seems to me like Skydance is trying to make a move where they take over Paramount and basically take control of it, similarly to what David Zaslav did with Warner Brothers when they merged Warner Brothers and Discovery. And there's been rumors for a while, and it's looking more and more like some kind of deal like that will take place. So
Okay.
one of the
Hmm.
things that I had mentioned actually earlier when I was talking to somebody else is that I think that a lot of the things that were done here today at Paramount was at the CinemaCon is that they wanted to give a feeling that there's a lot of stuff happening. It was almost too much. There was so much going on. They have a million projects. They're doing a million things. And I think that part of it is also psychological when your stock isn't doing well. And also, some of the stockholders don't like this idea that this other billionaire is going to take over. Sometimes Wall Street doesn't respond positively to that, especially that Paramount is already floundering around. So they don't know exactly what will happen once this merger takes place. So I think it was really important for Paramount to come out swinging with all these projects and all these things. Some of them may happen, some of them may not happen. Uh, Maybe a lot of them will happen, but I feel
Hmm.
like it was an important day for them. And then we'll just go over some of these projects. So one
Yeah,
thing
that'll
that's
be
kind of
fun.
a big deal um, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles uh, that they were going to do for adults, like an adult.
So that's the Last Ronin adaptation, correct?
Right,
That's the one that was on social media as well. Just kind of, that's interesting.
right.
Yeah. Actually sounds pretty exciting. I never read The Last Ronin, so I don't know exactly how the adaptation is, but the way that people talk about it seems like they are really excited about it too. Especially the dudes who are like really big fans of Ninja Turtles.
I am a fan of it growing up, and I'll tell you the truth. I haven't gotten a chance to read the Last Ronin, but because I'm friends with other people who like them, they've told me the general storyline of it. So I understand that it's sort of there's only one Ninja Turtle that's alive, which is Raphael, I think, and then it's kind of his story. I think
Yeah.
that that's what it is. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think that it's something along those lines. And basically
Uh,
it's a dark kind of story. It makes sense that this would be R rated. And initially, when I saw this story, I was actually pretty excited. But then it turned out, and I give credit to Tom Connors who showed me this. Once you start digging into this movie and who's in charge of it, there's a bunch of red flags. For starters, the big guy that's kind of running this production, the main producer, is Walter Hamada. I don't know if that
okay.
name means something to you.
Not yet. I
So
feel like it's
basically,
about to.
it is. You know how Warner Brothers had the DC universe, all that Snyder stuff, and that they kept changing and
Yeah.
shifting around, and one
Hmm.
day they're making this movie and that movie, and how it all kind of crashed and burned.
Hmm.
Walter Hamada was one of the main architects of the failure of the Warner Brothers DCEU.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
So
that could be
uh,
a problem.
yeah, it's not the first guy. It's not the first. When you're thinking, and that previous movie, that Seth Rogen crap movie, was bad enough. You really had hoped that somebody serious would come out and do this. Walter Hamada is a guy that was fired by Zaslav from Warner Brothers. It's funny because sometimes to me these people seem unemployable. If I was now a big studio, I wouldn't hire this guy. I feel like he was given the most opportunity, the type of opportunities that producers only dream of. Billions and billions of dollars he had access to, having the top most famous superheroes ever, Superman, Batman, things like that, Wonder Woman, and the kind of access that he had to money and to IPs. And at the end, that's the results that he brought. I wouldn't hire him. If he
Mm.
came to my office and said, "I'll do Ninja Turtle," I'd say, "Security, please escort this man out of my office."
Yeah. Well, now it begs the question of, why do you think that they hired him and kept him on despite all of those failures?
I have a few theories, but I don't want to. Yeah, I, I don't want to say. I don't want to say something that's. I don't know for sure. For
Right.
for starters, I mean, I don't. Uh, yeah,
I mean,
you're
you could
making.
speculate, but you
I
know what?
can
You don't
say.
have to.
No, I'll say it. I'll say it. He is, but I don't know. You don't keep a person like that, even for whatever reason. But yeah, supposedly they could have at least pretended that he was sort of diverse or something like that. I don't know if that was a
Mm,
reason. Sometimes there's people that are not diverse and they keep them. I mean, Kathleen
yeah.
Kennedy is a failure of those proportions, maybe even bigger failure. In a way, Kathleen Kennedy is the biggest failure, and she's not diverse in terms of her ethnicity or background. So I think with her, it's more the woman, the quote unquote strong woman in Hollywood that they don't want to release or let go of, or
Right.
uh, decorated
Yeah.
female woman thing, or whatever
She's been in
whatever
the
it is.
business a long time too, so that probably plays into it as well.
Right. So if that's what they have with her, I didn't really hear throughout the years that they really played up his diversity. I'm trying to think if that was a reason why maybe they wouldn't fire him so soon.
Mm.
Maybe they were dumb and they didn't know what they were doing, and they needed a guy like Zaslav to show up and say, "This guy's fired. He's doing crappy work. He can't be here. He has to leave right away." And that was the end of it.
Well, I hope that I hope that it's not the same that it has been before with him because I've never seen a like dark version of Ninja Turtles on TV or on in a movie before. I think we got a couple glimpses from the '80s movies where it's just you have those darkened scenes and you have a little bit of dark atmosphere, but for an overall film with a dark adult theme for Ninja Turtles, I think that's something that could really appeal to general audiences really because it honestly has not been done before. So to see and hear that it's being helmed by somebody who has brought so much failure to the table when it comes to DC related content, it's kind of it's worrisome because I'm looking at those posters and what they're talking about, and it sounds like a really interesting project. Like even if it's Raphael, just his lone story where he's a Ninja Turtle going on like a personal quest. That sounds sick, dude. I'd be so down for a movie like that. But they got to stop putting these crap directors and these crap producers at the helm because that's what's destroying them. Because these are great ideas they bring, but then when it comes to execution time, it's always subpar.
I'm trying to see if it was. I thought it was Raphael, but don't want to. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, because even like I think it would just be awesome to see a Ninja Turtle going on a personal quest where he's fighting people samurai style. I mean, I don't even know what the original comic is like or what it's adapted from. I assume it's a comic that it's adapted from, and I've only heard good things about it. Like every time someone mentions it, they're like, "Yes, dude, they're finally doing it." And I'm like, "Oh man, this sounds awesome!" Because I haven't read no Dark Ninja Turtles. I want to see that stuff.
Right. I mean, it seems really cool. And the other thing is that people forget, but the original 1990 movie, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, live action, which to date most people consider that one to be the best one, the gold standard. Sure, some time has passed. You could be nitpicky about it, but I think that it captures the spirit of what that movie needed to be. It has some elements that are darker, and I think that if this movie sort of continued the direction of what that movie did, I think that would be, at least in spirit, that would be a good idea. That's something that
Mm.
also I admit that Tom Connors mentioned, that he was, as far as I'm concerned, just make it a sequel to that movie, and I would be totally okay with that. Even the sequel to that first movie, the ones that were made back in the day, they weren't as good as that first movie. The
Right.
reason why the first movie from 1990 is really so good is because I think studios didn't meddle in it the same way that they started meddling afterwards, because they didn't know what to expect from the movie. The movie was considered a surprise smash hit. They
Yeah.
were not expecting the success, the financial success that movie had. And once success comes along, usually a bunch of executives in suits and ties come along with some charts, and start talking to you.
Mm.
And I think that when the sequel came along, a lot of changes were implemented. They said, you know what, this movie, it has to be a little more lighthearted. We need more fun here. We need Vanilla Ice to sing a song in the middle of the movie. That's what happens in the second one. They arrive at a club and Vanilla Ice like sings and dances with them. That's
Yeah.
that is absolutely the marketing people. They, we got to sell Happy Meals, we got to sell this, we got
Mhm.
to sell toys, we got to sell merchandise, we have to have a soundtrack. Vanilla Ice has to sing "Go Ninja Go." Nothing personal, right? Nothing personal against
Right.
Vanilla Ice, or some people like the "Go Ninja Go" song. Relatively speaking, considering what more recent movies that Michael Bay and Paramount made, that second movie that I'm making fun of now actually was much better than all those other
Yeah.
ones. At least it tried, but you could tell that people came in and were telling them it's very nice that you made money, but now you got to do it. Now we have an agenda, like a business
Hey,
agenda.
believe it or not, the Vanilla Ice one, the Ninja Turtles 2, that's actually the Ninja Turtles movie I watched the most.
Really?
I used to actually fall asleep to that movie, yeah, with the, whatever he is at the end, Super Shredder, which when I was, like, a really young kid, I would try to fast forward past just a little bit, but then, like, after a couple watches, I'm like, "Oh, this is pretty awesome that he's turning into a giant Shredder guy and just bringing this whole bridge down." But, yeah, that was the one I watched the most.
I mean,
I like
listen, it
that one.
was fun. Like as a kid, I appreciated that it was a little more lighthearted. It wasn't terrible.
Mhm.
Quickly, I just want to acknowledge we have Empress NM, we have Gooch, my friend Gooch here in the chat. How's it going, Gooch?
Oh.
I love that I have a friend called Gooch. You sound like a serious person if you say, "Well, I'm going to talk to my friend Gooch about it." Nobody's going to mess with you then.
Exactly.
And Edge of Time, Backyard TARDIS. I also have a friend called Cannoli Sasquatch. Having a friend called Cannoli and a friend called Gooch, I
Yeah.
feel like it makes me seem probably cooler than I am. Those are the type of friends that you wanna have in your corner.
Those are great friends. Good friends.
Good friends.
Hey, I was gonna ask you, by the way, when did the first Ninja Turtles movie come out?
The first one, I'm telling you, was 1990. I think. Let me check just to make sure. I believe it was 1990. Uh,
Because I'm just remembering it wrong, thinking that these are from the 80s, if that's the case.
I'll tell you right now. Comics or films, live action series.
You know what? Google is my friend. It is
Google
my
is your
friend.
friend. Yes. So 1990.
Okay,
That
cool.
that was the first one, 1990, and then the second one was The Secret of the Ooze, which came out
Yep.
in 1991. Wow, they really fast tracked it.
Yeah, they sure did. That movie got me into pizza, man. Hardcore. Like when that dude every time that dude delivers pizza at the beginning, and you just see like that big thing on the back of the motorcycle, and then like that dude's just like stretching all that cheese off that first slice.
They
Man, I'll never
do.
forget it.
They do make you want to eat pizza. I mean, you see the turtles eating pizza, you can't not be influenced by it. I'm a sucker for those things. I actually, as a kid, I would watch. They weren't of their time; they were old kind of reruns. Sometimes you had stations that would, at some point in the day, put these kind of old cartoons on. I don't know until what year they did that, but
Mm.
there were certain times in the afternoon that they just shove a bunch of old cartoons. So I'd watch Popeye, and Popeye
Oh.
liked to eat spinach, and I wanted to eat spinach because then Popeye was strong and he was beating everybody up. And I don't want to say that that's what I wanted to do, but I thought that was cool that he was doing it. The only catch was is that then I ate the spinach, and it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. I mean, first of all, it wasn't as good as I thought it would be, and then I couldn't beat up everybody like Popeye did. So I felt it was
Well,
kind
you
of
mean your arms didn't just like spontaneously explode from instantly
no.
eating the spinach?
They didn't explode. I couldn't beat everybody up, and the spinach wasn't very good.
Well, that's what we get for listening to our parents who lied to us, said that we won't grow if we don't eat our veggies. Just kidding.
Right.
Eat your veggies though.
And then,
Uh,
yeah, and exactly. Let me see. Somebody mentioned Nick Weiser here. I don't know why they mentioned him, but I like Nick Weiser. He's a friend of mine. I don't know if he's here, but that's a good friend of mine. In any
Nice.
case, so this live action one, I thought it was Raphael. It could be Michelangelo. Doesn't matter. The bottom line is that the Turtles are no longer with us except for one, and it also has April O'Neil in it, an older April O'Neil, an older. I thought it was Raphael. I could be wrong. Michelangelo, whatever it is. And at the end, it's sort of a more dark take on it. The writer that they brought for this movie is a writer that apparently has never written anything. So
Ever?
never written
Like-
anything, and Walter Hamada in charge of him. That doesn't sound like a winning formula to me.
What?
Yeah,
How
I
did
don't
you-
understand
man.
these studios, and at the end they'll be like, "Whoa, we invested 150 million or something." They'll do some stupid thing where they invest money, and it's like, how do you expect to get your money back if you hire people that are known? They have either no track record at all, or a track record of losing billions of dollars. How are you going to make your money back? And then they're surprised, but we got Walter Hamada. Yeah, you got Walter Hamada. That's why you don't have a movie. Crazy. So you have that.
That is quite the dot to connect there. Yeah.
In addition, there's the same kind of I don't believe this. I'll believe this when I see it. The next thing that we're going to talk about, it's this Star Trek.
All right, so is this a movie coming out?
Okay, so there was the J.J. Abrams Star Trek world where he did that movie with Chris Pine and with all those people with that cast.
Right.
And I'll tell you the truth. I think, especially today, when I look at what J.J. Abrams does, he can't fool me anymore. And even retroactively, when I see stuff that he does, like he's lost points with me. I can already tell. I can tell his stupid techniques and whatever. I've grown so sick of them and of him that even movies in the past that I'd say, well, this I guess was all right, they become less all right. There's somehow his work is degraded, if that makes any sense. But I will say this, even with all the things that I just said, that Star Trek 2009, for a while there wasn't a Star Trek, and they were bringing back the classic characters, and you had Leonard Nimoy, doing something there, as however minor, and the cast that they brought, which was Chris Pine and
Zachary Quinto.
Yeah, no, but there's what's the guy the Australian guy that's also in The Boys? What's his name? Carl Urban. Carl Urban. Yes. Okay. So Carl Urban was good. You had Zachary Quinto was good. Zoe Saldana, I don't know how much she convinced me as Uhura, but I really like her. So there was a lot of goodwill. That it's like a very, very likable cast. Very likable cast. If J.J. Abrams did the casting, as much as I think that he's annoying, at least I'll give him that the cast is very likable. And I think that first movie skated mainly on the likable cast. There was a big budget. There was some stuff going on. He was trying to make Star Trek into Star Wars, but even Star Wars he doesn't know how to do. So at the end,
because right, where was it? Rise of Skywalker. That has to be his worst film.
That is a terrible movie. That is a terrible, terrible movie. And when you think about it, even though The Force Awakens, when it came out, it had a lot of fan goodwill behind it. If you really, really look at it, that one's not a very good movie. He just sort of laid some groundwork. He rehashed a lot of ideas that he never thought of to begin with, just to rehash them. And then he sort of laid the groundwork to all this stuff that went nowhere. Part of it was his fault because he's just a clown. And part of it is because Rian Johnson is a douche. And then he came back and he tried to repair Rian Johnson's mess and he didn't know what he was doing. I think it really showed. Those movies really showed that J.J. Abrams, it's a brand name that a lot of people were walking around. I think that a lot of people in Hollywood, they liked his name. He had connections. His father was a producer. His mother was a journalist / producer or something like that. So it checked all the right boxes. They were friends with the right places. J.J. Abrams, if I'm not mistaken, when he was 16 years old, they picked up his first pilot or something to film. Which most people, when they're 16 years old and say, hey, I want to write a pilot, somebody says, can you go take out the trash and go do your chores and shut up? But in J.J. Abrams' case, where his parents are producers, 5 minutes later, he's sitting with some studio that are like, we'd love it. Let's produce your shows. And And there's something about that
Wow.
that annoys me. And it doesn't surprise me that at the end there's really no substance. He maybe was around it. He knows some gimmicks, but he's sort of I consider him a creative, and this is my opinion, a creative con man, like a charlatan. Uh, I
Yeah.
consider him you know how when we were kids and there were Happy Meals and then there was the Hamburglar
Yes.
that would steal the burgers. He was kind of this sniveler. He was going to steal all the burgers and run around. J.J. Abrams is the Hamburglar of Hollywood. He just goes around and sells all this crap, and he steals all the studio's money, steals it. I mean, he takes it for budgets for movies. He never delivers anything. And for
Yeah, there
years,
there
sorry,
was a hot minute where people thought that this guy was gonna be like the next Spielberg. They thought the same thing of Michael Giacchino when he was doing the music for J.J. Abrams and, like, in most of his movies, and that was the talk of the town, like, around the time he made Super 8. 'Cause everyone's just like, "Ah, it's his love to Spielberg, it's his passing of the torch, and this is gonna be, like, the next Spielberg of the next generation." And I'm just like and I liked J.J. Abrams at the time. I'm like, "Dude, like, he's never gonna be anything like Spielberg."
he's so not Spielberg. He's such an overrated. Say what you want. Some people can like Spielberg or not, but I'll tell you one thing: Spielberg. He grew up in a household where his parents divorced. Had some things going on as a kid. I think that a lot of it. That's why he would take his camera and make his movies and whatever. It
Right.
wasn't he didn't wasn't just born into a situation where his father at 16 years old said, "Here's the president of Warner Brothers. He wants to produce your show." That is a kind of I don't want to, I don't know if to call it nepo baby, whatever you want to call it, but
Mhm.
that is something that people that want to make shows, they can only dream of that. Now you can tell me, well, what do you want? He had the opportunity, so he did it, and that's true. But I'm saying that nothing that happened in his life really built character. His character was that
Mm.
his father said, "Here, they'll pick up your pilot, even though you're a little shit. You don't even know what you're doing. They'll pick up your pilot." That to me isn't toughing it out. That's my personal opinion.
That's a
That's
that's a
my
far that's a far cry from Spielberg's history.
right, exactly. Him as a kid, he's escaping his parents, this and that. He's filming all this stuff. He's directing all these movies himself on this little camera and doing stuff. Eh, I don't buy it with Abrams. He didn't have something that really um, built some kind of character. And
Yeah.
with Lucas, it's not that I know Lucas's background exactly as a kid or what he did or whatever, but I feel like those kind of people are of a different league of filmmakers, and J.J. Abrams is not in that league. He he
No.
didn't he didn't rise up. He didn't go to this kind of film school where he built some character and was living in these times that he really made a difference. He didn't innovate. The biggest thing, claim to fame, that really put him on the map is that stupid Lost show. That the whole show was a sham. Basically,
Mm.
I am really happy that I pick this even though I didn't know anything. I don't even know if I knew the name J.J. Abrams at the time, but I had a friend that he was like, "You got to watch Lost," and I sat there. I watched with him. I watched a few episodes, and after a few episodes, I saw that each time they add something. Now they discover this on the island. Now they discover that. Wait, who's this person? Wait, what are these people doing here? What happened here? What happened there? And it started feeling like just after a few episodes that it's just they're teasing you with a bunch of nonsense and nothing is happening. And I figured that I knew that this thing was just a sham. That you just keep watching it and they just kind of keep yanking your chain, and it's a show that really is just a waste of your time. I know most
Yeah.
people, they won't see it that way. They'll sit there. Maybe they loved it, maybe they didn't. But it was a waste of my time, and I just watched a number of episodes and I stopped. And I'm so happy that I stopped because it was exactly what I said it would be. It's an ongoing onslaught of mystery boxes, J.J. Abrams style. And even there, he didn't even do it alone. He had Damon Lindelof and whatever it is, those other guys that
Yeah.
worked with him. So he and a few other people came up with this kind of, and again, this is my opinion, con, the sham that you watch and they could string you along, they string you along, they string you along. And really today, when you think about that show, who even cares about that show? It ended so poorly. I don't hear anybody saying, "Oh, I got to go back and rewatch Lost." I don't hear that. It's not Breaking Bad. Nobody's sitting around watching that show.
No, and it's so funny because at the time when Lost was at its peak, people were making videos about it, constantly discussing secrets, going on to forums and like going studying star patterns, like going as far as astrology, from hints left in the show for people to check out, and all of it ended up adding up to, well, what you have in the last season, and it's a big nothing burger overall. I mean, it solves a couple of problems, but then it raises a whole bunch of new ones, and it just basically ends unresolved, and it kind of ends on a eh, kind of note, but it's also been a
Yeah,
while since I've seen it.
yeah. I mean, the thing is that it's just one of those shows that strings you along. And the reason I don't like these type of shows and these type of strategies is that they're not trying to provide any service to you as a eager TV enthusiast or somebody that's interested in what they're doing. All they're thinking about is how can we make people continue to watch this show no matter what? How can we just tease them and make them continue to watch it, even if we're just fooling them? We need their viewership. And for years, they built this thing, like you said, like at the end, it's all going to come together in the best possible way. And at the end, it doesn't come together. It's just nonsense. I sometimes had a lot of stuff that I would comment on that new Quantum Leap show that was canceled recently,
Mhm.
and I from day one said uh, that the guys that initially developed the show that were then demoted, they were actually disciples of Alex Kurtzman, and Alex Kurtzman is a disciple of J.J. Abrams, and so they're third generation J.J. Abrams disciples, and which is never a good thing. And every time that first season, you could tell they didn't know what they were doing. So every few seconds, they created a mystery, sort of like an ongoing mystery for the season. Mystery
Right.
here, mystery there, mystery here, mystery there. And at the end, in the final few episodes, they tried to tie up all the loose ends from the whole season. But when you're not a really good writer and all you're doing is just planning this stuff and you're just flying by the seat of your pants, and at the end you attempt to somehow explain it, and you didn't really do any real storytelling to earn any of these payoffs, then
Yeah.
you look like an idiot. And that's exactly what the makers of that Quantum Leap show looked like. Uh, Surprisingly, because NBC were in a pickle, they gave him a second season. And instead of firing everybody and bringing real people to work on the show, they let those people continue to do what they do. They all doubled down on weird identity politics, on the craziest stuff you can think of. And the show was finally canceled. And people are like, oh, we don't know how it was canceled. You don't know? I don't even know how it was on the air. It's the worst show ever.
Wow. Yeah, you brought up a really good point about teasing the audiences with some cool things, but then the quality just dips, and those mysteries are never really solved. I've noticed that shows have been doing that a lot lately, and I've actually been watching Fallout. I watched a couple episodes last night, and I've heard different things from different people, but I think one that we all meet in common ground on is where is that the after the third episode, which, as if I recall, Jonathan Nolan only wrote the first three. It's supposed to dip significantly in quality in either like halfway through episode three or on episode four and on, because it's no longer Jonathan Nolan's writing anymore. Now, and that being said, there's like serious pandering in this new Fallout series that I've been watching. But I think that it's a really great, if it turns out to be true, and I'm just like watching it and I'm like, oh my goodness, this show got so much worse. Then I think that show is a good example of what you're talking about. Shows that they put their all into like the first or second episode, and even then, it's not even like done fantastically or anything like that. And then it just dips right after, because you've already sucked in the audience to the point where they have to just see what happens next. My friend Nerdporial, you probably have seen and talked to him too, but Nerdporial brought up that point the other night when we were watching this, and it's just I see a lot of those qualities in what you're talking about, and there's a lot of shows like that do that exact thing, and more modern shows actually.
For sure. Yeah, I actually I understand what you're saying. It's a lot of times, even on those Disney Plus shows, which aren't good usually. Usually, what happens is that the first episode or two, they put all of their supposedly their best foot forward. The sad thing is, most of those shows already start off bad, so you already know that the next few episodes are going to be even worse.
Yeah.
Uh, in a lot of these shows, you even, let's say recently, not a science fiction, not even a Disney, there was a show that I saw that I actually didn't dislike. It was called The Gentleman, and it was on Netflix, based on Guy Ritchie's movie The Gentleman.
I saw that whole thing. That was a great one.
Right. So the only thing I'll say is I liked it, I enjoyed it, and I'm happy I watched it. All things considered, considering the type of shows you get on Netflix, that was actually a very, very pleasant one to watch, and I didn't dislike it. The only thing I'll say is I think that the first two episodes were written and directed by Guy Ritchie himself, and then the next, I don't know if it was 6 episodes or whatever it was other people. I noticed that there was a difference in the first two. I think he wrote it and directed the first two. I did feel there was a difference between that and the ones that followed. They weren't terrible, the ones that followed, but I really would have liked it if you would have done all 8 episodes.
That's a good point, because it did kind of drag in the middle a little bit. I'm just like, okay, I kind of hope that there's a little bit of a move on. I think between like episodes 4 and 5, probably like 4 and 5, I think there was some cool things that happened. But yes, is it confirmed that he didn't write those episodes after that? I'm just curious.
From what I can tell, it is confirmed. Yes,
Okay.
that's what I believe. I think that he didn't. I think he only wrote the first two.
Yeah, that would make sense, because like even though there's a lot happening in the first 2 episodes, it's executed really well. And then after that, I think 3 is good. And then 4 and 5, there's some scenes that just last way too long or take up too much time, and the show drags a little bit. But I will say overall that the writing was it stayed true to form mostly, because there was very little in there that I had to worry about. I felt like I was just watching a TV show, which is a rare feeling these days, sadly. But it was a pretty good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was a good time, but yeah, I mean, I think that brings us back though, that if they really put their best foot forward in those first few episodes, and I don't know, I wanted to watch that Fallout thing, I just didn't have time. I was going to ask you if you think it's good, and I'm definitely going to check it out. I will for a second say that I saw, you know what, let's just talk a little bit more about Paramount and what they're doing. This Star Trek thing that we were discussing, we went all over the place with J.J.
I know,
Abrams.
I
I
know.
just hear his name and that's it. That's the end of the show.
Yeah.
But no, Star Trek 4. So what they did was in 2009, they made that movie. And then in 2000, whatever it was, a few years later, he made Star Trek Into Darkness. Now, if that first 2009 movie was just sort of all right and you kind of gave it a pass maybe because of the likable cast and whatever, even though that movie did have issues, once you got to Star Trek Into Darkness, you really feel the full J.J. Abrams-ness of that whole situation, because he basically tried to remake The Wrath of Khan. And I'm trying to remember, was it Benedict Cumberbatch that plays Khan? You
Yes.
know,
Yes, indeed.
I like Benedict Cumberbatch. I didn't really like him in that role. And then they tried to do something where instead of Spock dies, Kirk dies. But then what happens is that Kirk doesn't really die, because these days nobody can die, or nothing
No.
bad can happen. So
Because they
it's
had
all
tribbles.
What'd you say?
Because they had tribbles. They
Did it
resurrected
have
them with
tribbles in it?
tribbles.
I remember watching it once and never wanting to watch it again. It was, maybe you're right, maybe it did have them, but it just felt like that classic J.J. Abrams trying to give you all this kind of nostalgia bait, and at the end, before you know it, he's rehashing ideas that once worked well, and he's just not good enough to do anything with them. He's fooling you with nostalgia bait every time he gets stuck. Remember this, remember that, remember this, remember that. And then that's his whole movie. And really, that Star Trek Into Darkness really proved that he is not as great as people say that he is.
Yeah.
I really don't think that was a good movie. But then, oddly, that after he made those two Star Trek movies, and this is, I guess, how Hollywood works, Disney really wanted him to make Star Wars, because they said, well, he ruined Star Trek so well, maybe he could ruin Star Wars. So they brought him to work for them. It's like Walter Hamada. We keep laughing, but that's exactly what happens. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy lost billions. Let's bring him here. I mean, I will say that the first movie did make money. The first Star Trek, I think he did make money with it. The second one, I think it was an expensive movie to make. I don't know how much money that one made. That probably wasn't as big. But At the end, they made a
Yeah.
third one where he remained producer. So then he was doing double duty, ruining Star Trek and Star Wars at the same time. So he was the producer, I think, of that third one, Star Trek Beyond, whatever it was called. And then James Wan or something, the guy that did the Saw movies, he directed. You know,
Yeah, yeah. They dialed up the pandering to like 11 in that Star Trek 3 movie, that third
yeah,
Abrams Trek movie.
I,
I'm
I
just like that was just wow.
I'm trying to think again. It's these type of movies that I never even felt like watching again. I already didn't even go to see that one in the theater. I think that, to be fair, I was sort of dozing off on a plane, and I watched that third one. I do remember what happens in it. It seemed kind of dumb. Sometimes
Yeah.
when you're on a plane, a movie actually, like, if you're a bad movie, you want me to watch you on a plane
And you didn't
because
want to
because
watch it on a plane.
because I'm probably going to order some whiskey. I'm kind of dozing off. It's the only thing. What am I going to do? I'm going to look at the stupid movie. Somehow, I think the most goodwill that you'll ever get from me if you're a bad movie is if I see you on a plane. And it's funny because I saw Star Trek Beyond on a plane, and I think that I didn't think it was good, but I think that if I would have seen it in theater, I would have gotten really annoyed. It's just somehow on a plane, I'm like, whatever. This is kind of lame.
Yeah, and here's a fun fact, just for a little bit of trivia. J.J. Abrams has actually copied his own moves before. He's repeated the same scenes twice in different types of universes. So, like in the Star Trek 2009 scene, where like Eric Bana's character is interrogating Christopher Pike, and he's just like, Christopher, answer the question. And he's like, I'm not going to give you the answers. And then he puts that bug in his mouth or whatever.
right.
And then he does the same thing again in Super 8 a couple of years later, where the Colonel is interrogating the Dr. Woodward guy in very much the same way. And he's like, tell me everything. And then he's like, I'm not going to tell you nothing, and that thing's going to come for you. And then they inject him with something, and then it's like the same exact camera shot with like the villain looking onward.
He has
Like,
his stupid lens flare. He's not very original. The few ideas that he has, he keeps using them over and over again, and usually those ideas he found them somewhere else as well.
right, yes.
He
Yeah,
he
well, Super 8 was like a love letter, but even then, like he was still rehashing his own things from previous movies. He couldn't even like nail that one really.
he doesn't really have any substance for real. I mean, sure, I guess listen. Sometimes you have people like J.J. Abrams, and maybe they can direct some movie, or maybe they can direct a show, or something like that. Maybe they could do something. It's just that, and that's perfectly fine. It's just that I think that they made him a much bigger deal than he is. Meaning, he's
Yeah.
not on the level of what they made him. He's somehow just okay, but he's kind of, like I said, he's like the hamburger. And this is my opinion. He's kind of like a charlatan. He would go into all of these studios. Um, he created this kind of name for himself where people are like, wow. A lot of it in Hollywood is politics. It's how you market yourself. It's peddling the right politics. It's kissing the right asses, having the right connections. And I guess, growing up in this system, he had a lot of that. And he has a name, even his name, JJ. You know what I'm saying? Like, uh,
Right, exactly.
a lot of studios were like, hey, they just, it rolls off their tongue nicely, these kind of like industry people. Well, I'm going to call JJ and see what he has to say. You
Hey,
know what I'm
so I'm
saying?
pretty sure he did the movie Joyride. Do you remember that one with Paul Walker?
Don't
There was
remember that one.
there was a movie with Paul Walker, and in that movie he has a brother, and they're so it was a movie
They
that I saw a
switch
lot.
places.
No, no, no. So, well, that's funny actually. But yeah, so they team up, and they're like going on a road trip, and this trucker dude is chasing them throughout the whole movie because they insulted him on the radio. So it becomes this like horror thriller where this trucker's just like trying to ruin their lives and try to run them over. And I watched it a lot when I was younger, and then years later, I'm like, man, what other movies has J.J. Abrams done? And I looked at Joyride, and it had the name Jeffrey something J something Abrams, and I made the connection that J.J. Abrams apparently directed that movie.
Oh, So he was going under his. I guess initially he didn't do the JJ thing, but then
He was a Jeffrey.
he knew he had to have better branding. Yeah, he went for the JJ. But by the way, whatever you just described with a truck chasing somebody, that sounds like a ripoff of Spielberg's first movie, Duel, where it's like this guy is being chased by a guy in a truck, and the whole
Oh
movie
my
there's this
goodness.
trucker that's like chasing him.
That dude, you know what? That just makes it so much more hilarious. Because even in his early days, JJ was copying Spielberg.
Just copying, that's all he can do. He's not that kind of director. There's nothing wrong with kind of copying, especially if you're just a B-level director. I think that people made this guy more than he was. I mean, he's competent enough that you give him a big set, big people, big things. Maybe there's something that he knows how to do, but most of his movies, I mean, they're very, very expensive. I guess what I'm saying is there's this director called Alejandro Monteverde, who
Mm,
directed Sound of Freedom and this Cabrini movie. Now, Sound of Freedom, it cost $15 million to make. That was the budget he had. But when you watch the movie, it looks like it cost $50 million. I mean,
mhm.
he really takes the budget that he has and he makes the most of it. And that Cabrini movie, that one was more expensive. It cost $50 million, which is not nothing. But even then, I would say that he made such a nice looking period piece. It looks like a movie that could have been $100 million. It looks like a movie that could have been more. So I'm saying there's some directors that you give them a budget and they think of so many interesting ideas and they have so much style that they can actually make uh, get you more bang for your buck.
Mm.
J.J. Abrams, I feel, is the opposite. He just takes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and then produces some slop. Meaning, you could say that some of it doesn't look bad or isn't the worst, but I say if you have those kind of budgets and that kind of backing and that kind of support, and then at the end these are your movies, then I'm not impressed. And certainly not with Rise of Skywalker. That one is an embarrassing movie. That is an
Yeah,
embarrassment.
yeah, it is an embarrassing movie. Yeah,
And
it's a good word.
really, if you think about it, I think that since that movie his career has taken a different turn. I think that movie actually showed that he was not the big filmmaker that they made him out to be. I think that movie exposed that he exactly what I've been saying and a lot of other people have been saying about him for years. And that's
Mhm.
why Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, had a deal with him that basically J.J. Abrams was going to get $250 million, and Zaslav, I think, killed the deal. I think the deal only works if he suggests projects and they want to do them. And I think any project he showed them, they're like, we don't want your crappy projects.
So does that
Go.
mean that we're not gonna get JJ Abrams' Superman movie?
It doesn't look like it. It looks like J.J. Abrams and his Superman movie are out. It looks like anything that he's pitched. There were even shows. There was one thing that was greenlit and it was being produced for HBO. Zaslav came and he pulled the plug on it. He didn't want to hear about it. I feel like Zaslav knows that J.J. Abrams isn't very good. I feel like he knows
Yeah,
it. I'm not saying that Zaslav knows what he's doing 100%, but at least it comforts me to know that he knows a bullshit artist when he sees one.
yeah.
So at
Yeah,
least
that
that.
by the way, that Superman movie would have been awful.
Yes.
It would have been trash. And then that would have solidified. If it's not already solidified that JJ Abrams has been taking a nosedive, like Price said, it's like that movie would have done it.
And now another thing that we have is we have the Gladiator. This is weird
Yes.
for me. I guess they show the Gladiator too. I don't understand how this movie has a sequel.
Yeah, so a trailer just dropped and a Gladiator 2. I have not seen this trailer and I don't who's the main star?
Is it Pedro Pascal, Paul Mescal, and Denzel Washington? I don't even know what this movie is supposed to be. I feel like The Gladiator, it's been a very long time since they made that movie. I didn't watch that movie thinking that there needed to be more gladiators. And quite honestly, even that movie, I watched it once many years ago. I remember the general idea of the movie. It wouldn't hurt for me to watch it again, but I remember the general thing of what goes on there. I remember the ending, and based on that ending, I don't know what kind of sequel they're looking for. I really didn't feel like I needed a Gladiator 2.
Yeah, well, some things I've read about that movie, like it's a sometimes it feels overused, but there are red flags just from reading about what it's about. It's I'm kind of worried about it. And this is by Ridley Scott too, so same guy.
Yeah,
And
I
this
don't
is
know.
interesting.
I'll be honest with you. Ridley Scott, I know this is a terrible thing to say, but Ridley Scott ain't what he used to be.
Yeah. Well, what are the comments saying before we take a look at it?
Let's see what
I'm
the
kind of
comments.
curious what people are saying because there's got to be some people with taste out there.
This is clearly not the official teaser trailer from Paramount Pictures. This looks like a Netflix documentary.
Oh,
Lucius
is this
didn't
not them?
Lucius didn't lose his father to Maximus. Se siente el bajo
Oh, hey,
pues,
careful! You never know what that says. Oh no, I'm
no,
just
se
kidding.
siente means feel something about feelings. Se siente, maybe I feel
Oh,
uh,
okay, cool.
el,
That's
sorry,
actually pretty
I
helpful.
know some Spanish, but I'm really not doing well here. But se siente is something with feelings.
Oh, did I
Straight to
not?
streaming. The funny thing is that people. Wait a
Oh,
minute.
never mind. This isn't a trailer.
It's not the. Oh,
I
is
don't
it?
I don't think so. It's by Darth Trailer. That's actually my fault. That's actually
Oh,
my fault.
okay, okay. I think that they haven't shown the trailer to the public.
No, okay. So, well, I'm kind of
Oh,
glad because the things I was reading about this movie, saying that like one of the characters has privilege, that they emphasize that this character has privilege and he gives it up. And I'm not sure how this works for the Roman Empire, but already that sounds really bad. And it stars Pedro Pascal, and seeing the projects that he's been involved in lately, I don't. It just looks like another. It looks like another check because if anybody thinks that this dude is going to stand up to Russell Crowe's performance, I'm sorry, but
no, this seems really bad. I'll
that's
tell you what it says here because I can't find the trailer. It's set 20 years after the first film. Again, never really wanted to know what happened 20 years later. Paul Mescal plays a nobleman who has renounced his privilege and is inspired by Maximus. Already a red flag, like you said. His man-eating monkey is a charging rhino and has man-eating monkeys, a charging rhino and sharks. Pedro Pascal plays a Roman general forced to become a gladiator after he wanted to stop sending men to war. Ugh, sounds annoying. Denzel Washington is a shadowy operator manipulating everything. I like Denzel Washington. I think he's a great actor. This this surprises me because usually he doesn't take scripts that aren't good. I want to believe that this is good, but I don't have a good feeling about it. It would be a shame if he's reached a point in his career that he's not taking good scripts and he's just taking whatever. Because Denzel Washington is legitimately a good actor. Joseph
yeah.
Quinn is Emperor Karasala. Now,
Joseph
Joseph,
Quinn is Emperor.
that's what it says. Now, Joseph
Okay.
Quinn, I think he's a good actor. I thought he did great in Stranger Things. He seemed like an actor with potential to me. I don't know how he would be here in this movie. I don't know in this role. On Stranger Things, I liked him a lot. I thought that he showed a lot of potential there. Can't say beyond that. I don't really know, but I don't dislike him. Paul Mescal and Pedro Pascal
Hmm.
face off in the arena. You know what? I wasn't itching for this. If some people like it, it's cool. It seems weird that it's called Gladiator 2. You know,
Yeah.
this is more like a situation that I would call it Gladiator and then add a title.
Yeah, because the first movie was just such a big one to just slap a 2 on it as if it's, on
Yeah,
equal footing with the first one.
right. This isn't Rocky 2. This is some other
Yeah.
thing. This is more like Gladiator, the next generation, or something like that. It's not Gladiator Legacy or one of those things. It's not a direct sequel in the sense that 5 minutes later this thing is here. To call it Gladiator 2 is really a stretch, and I think a bad decision. And
Yeah.
also, if it was called Gladiator, the rise of an empire, or some nonsense like that, at least you think to yourself, okay, it's sort of a different installment in this Gladiator world, and maybe you're a little more forgiving.
Yeah, maybe so. But just seeing other directors that are up there, just like Ridley Scott is, like George Romero making movies like Furiosa, and it's just being so just looking so out of touch, out of just seeming to come along at the wrong time. I'm not sure what I think about these OG directors coming out with these sudden sequels and just suddenly expanding on these like masterpieces that they made way back in the day. It kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth because every remake or a reboot, or even like soft reboot so far has been a disappointment. And it's hard for me to say that I don't expect to be disappointed with something like Gladiator 2 also. Just because, and not just because of the fact that it's been so long since the first movie came out, and it's a great film that stands on its own, and it should stand on its own, but because of the time that we're living in as well, where every movie that comes out, people are just scanning it to see if they're being attacked in some way, and a message is being pushed, etc., etc. It just feels so weird to see that this sequel is being made at all.
Right, and one of the biggest candidates for these type of messaging is, and we've seen it so many times in the past several years, is that they like taking something that did well once, is established, had people that liked it, there's goodwill, there's fan goodwill, and then you go see it and you think, okay, well, I like the first one, now this is the continuation of it, but suddenly in this continuation, that's when they stick all their messages. That's when they take characters that you liked or do anything to kind of ruin the more lore and mythology and try to present even heroes that you saw in a negative light. That's really what got people so annoyed, especially with Star Wars, but
Yeah.
not limited to. I always think that Star Wars was sort of the firing it was the firing gun.
Okay.
Is that the term when there's a race?
Oh
Well,
yeah, yeah. I just call it the firing gun.
is that the firing gun? I mean, what do you call the thing in the race?
The thing where you shoot it, right? And then the
Yeah,
race starts. Not a
somebody
clue.
shoot. I'm going to say it's the firing gun. I don't even know why I call it that, but that was it. That was the beginning of the celebration of messaging and propaganda. Was
Yeah.
The Last Jedi? It wasn't really the Last Jedi. It was probably a few movies with kind of like 2016 Ghostbusters. There were other signs, Furiosa, The Force Awakens.
Mhm.
Things were brewing in that direction, but the Last Jedi was the firing gun. Again, I don't know the
Yes.
term. Somebody, if you in the chat know what that thing is, you can tell me. But it's the firing gun, and then from that moment, any male hero that was well liked, anything like that, they had to
Starting
tear him down.
pistol.
What'd you say?
Starting pistol. That's what it says it is.
Starting pistol.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
fine.
one.
That's fine. Starting pistol. I'll take it. So we got
I like firing gun better.
I like I like firing gun. It sounds cool. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Whether it's Indiana Jones, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, any time you put a male on screen, and whether it's animated or live action or anything that they revived, they did that. So once you see this, you kind of think, oh, people that were maybe in the first one, they'll start kind of tarnishing their legacy, saying that they had privilege. I don't know what they're going to come up with, but it's like we've seen this so many times that at the end, nobody even feels like watching these.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Ridley Scott, is he directing this? I think that Ridley Scott is not the Ridley Scott that he used to be. And I say this with a lot of, I'm not trying to be mean, but when you're sort of young and on top of your game, you can create so much cool stuff. And as you start growing older, and I'm not saying that if I've seen people in their 40s, 50s, 60s still do something, but really, Ridley Scott seems like he's kind of old. How old is Ridley Scott?
Oh man. Let's see. Ridley Scott age 278. No, it's
86 years old. 86 years old. That's
Man.
not a good sign. Are you sure he's directing this thing? I have to see this.
That's what I heard. That's what I read.
I feel like
Gladiator 2.
You know what? You're absolutely right. It's directed
No way.
It is directed by Ridley Scott.
Yeah, it's just the timing is weird, man.
and the budget is 250 million to 310 million.
Oh my
This
gosh.
looks like a recipe for disaster.
Oh,
Even if let's say it makes money, it needs to make with this kind of budget, it needs to make between 600 to 700 million just to break even, at least.
guess how much the first movie's budget was? Half that.
Now, to be fair,
103.
I assume that you know there's some difference in inflation, even if the first one
Right,
cost
right.
half. But I will say that the first one actually, I mean, if today he's 87 or whatever, the 86 years old, at the
Yeah.
time he was 60 or something like that. 60. It is a big difference. It is a big difference if you're 86 or if you're 60 making a movie
Yeah.
or 61.
I'm trying to do a comparison, but
Yeah, I mean first of all, it's not half. That one cost $103 million to make. This one made it's they're saying between 250 to 300. They're not even sure.
oh my gosh. Okay.
So this one, even with inflation, even with whatever, it seems like this one is a lot. And again, Ridley Scott, it's very different. If this was released in 2000, he probably filmed in 98, 99, let's say, and now we're in 24. Yeah, if today he's 86 years old, I assume that at the time he was around 60. 60 and 86 are two very different ages.
True.
And
all very true.
And also, once you reach kind of like 80 and you're going every year, the year is significant. Every year is significant. It's not like, oh, it's nothing. A few more years here, a few more there. Once you're in that 86 zone, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I kind of saw a little decline when he had Prometheus come out, and
he hasn't been on top of his game. I don't want to be mean.
You know, we had Robin Hood with Russell Crowe too, which was a basic to a lot of people was a ripoff of his Gladiator movie.
Right. I just listen. There's only a certain amount of time that you could be so revolutionary or kind of do all this cool stuff, or at some point you're probably not going to create something that's better than what you did before. It happens a lot with bands. You see these type of bands. I mean, they had something back in the day, and today they're not going to release something that's going to be better. Just for example, I personally, I'm not a big fan of them. I don't hate them. I like some of their songs, but I'm not like the diehard fan. But like the Rolling Stones, if they release an album today and say we're going on tour, nobody's going to their show to see their latest album. Nobody bought their latest album. Nobody knows what songs are on it. They don't even know what songs are on their new album. They probably don't even remember what they recorded and what's on that album. What really matters is those kind of songs that they wrote in the 60s and the 70s. When somebody goes to see a show of theirs, that's what they want to see. They want to see the classics. They don't care about this stuff. And most bands, if you look at their catalog, it's very rare that a band suddenly already in their 60s and 70s, suddenly 80s, come up with their masterpiece.
Right. Yeah. They're usually just going on stage and playing classics. I know that a lot of bands relish in that.
Right. And there's some bands that really, really like, you know, there have been bands that I've seen that you could say at least throughout the years that they've existed, they've really evolved and did a lot of different styles, and they have a really rich catalog that last about 20 years. But sometimes you have people like Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam had the first album, 10. That was, in my opinion, a good album. And from that day, they've built a career just leaning on that one album. Some people would say that their second album, Versus, and then Vitalogy had a few good songs on it. They weren't terrible, but from that fourth album until, and I think they released like 1 million albums to date. From album number 4 to like 1 million, those albums all, sorry, I know I don't want to be mean. They're not very good. Not very good albums. I personally...
How could you be so cruel?
No, I was going to say something much worse, but I stopped because I want to try to be a good person. But they're awful. So many awful songs. The success went to Eddie Vedder's head. And at the end, what's my bottom line here? Today they do shows. A lot of people go see their shows. And you know why they want to go see it? because they want to see them perform the album 10, which is their first album that they recorded when they were very young. And that's the album that everybody wants to see, and they know it. So most of the time they play the entire album. It's a weird situation. They've released 7 million albums. All people want is they want to go and listen to that first album. If I went to see a show of theirs now, which I don't really feel like it, because I think that Eddie Vedder is kind of annoying. But if I was transported somehow, if I was beamed up into their show or whatever it is, and I was just there, then I would also only want to hear 10.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So yeah, so that happens sometimes, and Ridley Scott is not in the phase of his career that it's like, I got some really good movies in me. Now, with all that being said, it's not that I'm not rooting for him, and I don't dislike him. It's like, it's a guy that I really like. I think he's brilliant. He's a brilliant man with a brilliant catalog of movies. He's done a lot of brilliant work. I really respect the guy, but at the same time, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, for one for me, I can't stand seeing Pedro Pascal on screen anymore. He's in so much stuff now. I just like I to think that he could even pull off a performance. Maybe Ridley Scott has given him a good script to work with, but say what you want about what he said about certain people in the past, but just by the amount of movies he's been in alone, and some of the things that he's been in have left bad taste in people's mouths. I'm just kind of tired of seeing him and stuff, and for a movie as big as Gladiator 2, because the first one was huge, and this one, if you want to fill in the shoes, you should pick an actor who's top tier. Okay, it has to be on the level of Russell Crowe. I mean, are you trying to craft an amazing story, or are you just trying to bank off the first movie? And you want Pedro Pascal to run that, and it's just, I just feel like, again, there's not enough effort there, and it's like they're going with the mainstream option rather than going with an actor that has a really incredible range of acting. Like, crying is one thing, but pulling off a performance and having that screen presence, it's on another level than just bringing a performance to the table.
Pedro Pascal is basically he's an okay character actor for certain characters. I don't think he's the worst actor I've seen, but he's nowhere near what they're making of him. They're making him as if he's Laurence Olivier. He's not anything on that level. He's just he's a pretty decent actor, not the kind that you give him every single production, every single movie, every single high-profile role.
All the big ones.
All the big ones. It's like you can't get rid of him. All you do, everywhere you go, it's Pedro Pascal this and Pedro Pascal that. and he's not that great. He's just all right. I'm not. It's also a matter of overexposure. I don't need to see him in every movie. I mean, there have to be different actors that you cast for different roles. How is it that this guy became the guy that's cast for every single role, every high-profile role, Pedro Pascal? And he's not that kind of actor. He's not that kind of actor.
I don't know. Maybe people are just so hung up on his Mandalorian season 1 and 2 stuff, but I can't see the appeal on such a wide scale where he's just getting call after call. Like, dude, we need you in this big blockbuster as the main dude. I'm like, I mean, he's a great support character. I mean, he's a great main character in some places, but my goodness gracious, are there no other actors?
The two things that I thought he was good in was Game of Thrones, which again, ensemble cast, a minor role. I thought he was good in that. And I thought that in Narcos, I thought that he did a good job there. That was something that I thought he was good in. Narcos and can't even remember the Game of Thrones. That was probably the two roles that I saw that I thought this guy is good in these roles, legitimately good. But again, those weren't the type of roles that I say to myself, okay, now he has to be the lead in every Hollywood movie from moving forward. These performances, if anything, told me, okay, he's an interesting character actor. He's a pretty good character actor. Maybe in certain situations when you need a supporting character actor, maybe he could do a good job. That's what I was thinking to myself. Not that he's the leading man every second and for every production. And let's pretend he was on that level, which he's not, and that he was the best ever, which he's not. Let's pretend. Even then, I don't need to see him every second. How much do I need to see him?
E. Clay Thomason said, "Soon all movies will be Pedro Pascal and Zendaya."
You know what? It's true. Zendaya also. You know, they choose. They find a few people that they think that they're somehow, you know, a one size fits all. Uh,
Yeah,
Pedro Pascal, they can say that he's sort of Latin, but it's kind of. And I'm sorry, I don't want to say these things because I. But what can we're having a late night conversation. I'll say
yeah,
that they brought a guy that he's sort of Latino, but he's sort of mild, if that makes any sense.
yeah.
Meaning, it's not a guy that comes out and I feel like I don't want to suggest that he's not a real Latino. It's not my position to say one way or another, but I'm saying that he kind of feels like if Latinos saw him, they probably think to themselves, this guy is very mild. Now, I've never asked them, so it's not fair. I'm just speculating here.
Hey, look, my wife is half Puerto Rican,
Okay.
and she's as white as super glue.
Okay. Fair
So
enough. Yeah.
so there you go.
Right. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is he comes off as a very that, like I said, mild. And Zendaya also, they're like, well, she's very diverse, she's very this, but even her, there's something very mild about her. You know what I mean? These are
Right,
people that
right.
are sort of, I guess, their appearance and their presentation is sort of ambiguous. Their background sort of seems ambiguous. They have the right names, and they can, you know, the press can go and say, well, it's the first woman of this and the first man of that. But generally speaking, when you kind of see them in their vibe, they feel kind of ambiguous, kind of like The Rock is also sort of ambiguous.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, define ambiguous for The Rock.
I mean, ambiguous in the sense of like they sort of seem, again, just in my opinion, like
Mhm.
they're perhaps of mixed heritage. And this kind of ambiguity that it's not clear exactly what their heritage is, it feels like a one size fits all for Hollywood. This is me
Ah,
speculating. I don't know this for sure, but I'm
right,
saying
right.
like maybe some like people sat with charts and stuff and said, well, it appeals to a lot of different groups, and this person sort of appeals to a lot of different people because they all sort of can relate to them because
Right.
they're sort of different backgrounds in one person or whatever it is. Uh, I sometimes think that Hollywood looks for people like that. Not to take away, it has nothing to do with if they can act or not act, or if I even how I feel about them or not. But I also won't sit here and pretend that people don't sit in these kind of rooms and make those type of decisions. I'm sure they do. They have the focus groups. They have all these kind of. They're obsessed with race all the time. They talk about it.
Yeah, I don't
Seeing
disagree with you. Yeah, I think that that's true.
seeing yourself on screen. Oh, how many groups are we representing? Blah blah blah. What about the DEI? It's not me that's inventing it. I don't care about anything. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if you wrote a good story and it's not just lecturing people, certain people of a certain background or men that they suck, and you just wrote a good story and you have a cast in it, I don't care. I never said that I don't want to see people of this background or that background. And even the people that I said, there isn't something about them that I don't want to see. In the sense of on Game of Thrones and on Narcos, I thought that Pedro Pascal was good. I've seen roles like in Wonder Woman, I've seen The Last of Us. I didn't think he was that great in those. I thought that he was just
Mm.
whatever. I didn't think there was anything special that he brought to those roles that it had to be him to do it, aside from the fact that they wanted to check off the boxes, in my opinion. I don't think he was that great.
No, like all the shots were like shot for shot from the game for The Last of Us, but Pedro just, he can cry really well. But that's it. And Joel is a character of a pent up rage, a lot of anger, and he suffered great loss, but they dial up the dopey sad part of that like up to 11 with the Pedro Pascal role. And I've never seen Pedro Pascal as an effective Joel. They had so many other people that so many
No,
fans
they
said
made
that
him
they
a
could have picked.
sensitive wuss. That's what they
Yeah,
made him. Instead of him
exactly.
being a little more badass and take charge, he seemed like a sensitive wuss most of the time.
Yeah, there's like a scene where he's crying to his brother saying, "I can't do this. Please
Yeah,
take
he
her from me."
cries
Like,
every
you're so
second.
cringe, man.
Totally cringe. I agree with you, and he wasn't right for it, but maybe he was right for their take of this
For their
sensitive.
take, yeah. The
They
sensitive guy.
needed a sensitive wussy guy. I say wussy because I'm trying to keep it clean and say
Keep it
positive
clean.
things.
Which is more than we can say for Pedro, who has said some pretty terrible things in the past, which I won't dig into. I'm just, for the sake of balance, I think it's fair to say that we are being rather kind to Mr. Pascal.
Somebody asked me if I wasn't Mexican at all, and no. Some people think that I am because I know a bit of Spanish, but
Yeah.
I don't know why people. I don't think I know it well enough for somebody to think that.
Well. Hey, you know what?
But
Sometimes people just think that might be the case, just based on you understanding something in Spanish.
yeah, no, I do know a bit, and I think that my pronunciation is relatively decent. I've
Yeah.
heard, my friend Mexican Iron Man. I'm dropping names. Mexican Iron Man. No, I really like Mexican Iron Man though. He's really nice. So
Yeah.
he told me a few times. I don't know how I said something in Spanish, and he's like, "Wow, I really like. I think that you actually pronounce it really well." And I
Oh
don't think
wow.
he's very kind of no nonsense. So I don't think he would have told me that if he didn't
Oh, he
mean
gave
it.
you a compliment. That's good. That's a good thing. That's the kind of
Yeah,
stuff you want to hear. Like, hey, that didn't sound too bad. Just like, oh, just hits you right there, right
right.
in the feels.
So yeah. So people say sound like I'm Latino or Middle Eastern. That's interesting. Mild sauce of a general. I'm not this. Okay,
Hey, correct. Hey, Price sounds like Price. That's
that's
what Price
that's it.
sounds like.
That is true. I just sound like myself, and I feel like it's different. There aren't many people that sound exactly like this. So for good and for
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, and the appearance adds so much to it too. You got that deep voice, and you're a fish man in a crown. I mean, it's great.
It's a weird combination, but we're making it work.
Yeah.
Back to Pedro Pascal. Yeah,
You know,
he's.
I have yet to see him in that Nicolas Cage movie. I was thinking of
People
watching
told me
him.
he was good in that movie. I haven't seen it. I want to see that movie,
Yeah.
and I want to say it's not that I don't think that he could do anything. I just think that they dialed it up to 11 instead of just letting him be whatever he's supposed to be. So I'm
Yeah.
not excited about him. Paul Mescal, remind me what does he do?
I don't know. Who is he?
Who is he? I don't even know who that is.
But they were saying it like people do know who that person is.
Yeah, let's see. Who is this guy?
Paul Mescal. Sounds like Pedro Pascal's brother.
he
Like long lost brother.
he's apparently an Irish actor.
Well, I guess not then. Interesting. What has he been in? Has he been in anything interesting?
I'm trying to see
Paul
film
Mescal.
breakthrough. The Lost Daughter with Maggie Gyllenhaal. After Sun. All these things are like they premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. I
Oh,
mean,
it's
yeah,
that guy. I've seen this actor and stuff before.
I'm
I think
trying
he
to think of
played like,
one thing that I saw him that I even know what he was. I don't know.
well, that isn't much of an announcement because even though I find him familiar, I really can't see him. But yeah, it's a
His films Drifting, The Lost Daughter, God's Creatures, After Sun, Carmen, All of Us Strangers, Foe, and then Gladiator 2. I don't know who this person is. I've never seen him do anything.
yes. Well, to me he looks like a little bit like Bargain Bin, Daniel Radcliffe,
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
just a
No,
little bit.
you're right. You're right. It seems like when they can't get Daniel Radcliffe, they call this guy. Uh, but
That would be funny
maybe
if
this guy goes to the gym more or something. I don't know. I mean,
maybe.
maybe this one has like it seems a little like he's a little more
You
badass.
should totally show them. You should show them what he looks like and
Okay, yeah,
see
I should.
if they agree about the Bargain Bin Daniel Radcliffe.
It's sort of I could see it sort of as a bargain bin, Daniel Radcliffe. I can understand what you're saying.
Oh, I see. You pick the mustache.
Right. I mean, once he's with a mustache, he seems a little more whatever. But let's look at the. Oh, where is he? Let's look at the. Yeah, here he looks like Daniel Radcliffe, like a wannabe.
Oh my gosh, dude. It's
This is
totally
total
Daniel
Daniel
Radcliffe.
Radcliffe, but I will say that it's sort of it looks like Daniel Radcliffe if Daniel Radcliffe was a bit more snivelly.
Yeah, or like maybe Daniel Radcliffe's stuntman. Now he's a
Right,
movie
Daniel.
star.
I'll take Daniel Radcliffe stuntman or more sneaky brother.
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe's sneaky brother. That's probably what they. That's what they say in meetings.
Daniel Chadcliffe, or what Stephen Mack said, Chad Radcliffe.
Chad Radcliffe for sure. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of, he looks like that with maybe with the mustache. He seems a little more badass. But yeah, there's something in his eyes and somehow his look that does remind you a little of Daniel Radcliffe. In any case, I don't know much about this actor. He doesn't have a track record of movies that really big movies. These are more kind of art house movies. That doesn't mean he's not good. I just simply don't know. And the only
Yeah.
name here that means something to me is Denzel Washington. What he's going to do in this movie, I don't know. I I want to believe that if he took this role, that there's something good for him to do in this movie. But I suspect that it's a check collecting situation.
You know
Maybe at
what?
this point,
I bet
so
he's going to be like the guy who's in charge of the gladiators.
he's not getting any younger. I think maybe he's reached that point where he just says, you know what, somebody's offering me millions of dollars to be in this, and I'll just do it. I feel like maybe 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, he was more picky. But now I
Yeah.
think it's, you gave me a check and I'll be there, which is kind of disappointing, but I understand. I mean, he's already, how old is Denzel? Is he already 70? What is he?
Oh goodness. Let me see. You know, I have yet to see him in that tragedy of or I think it's just called Macbeth, but it's about the tragedy of Macbeth, the black and white movie.
Haven't seen it, but he's 69 years old, and at 69 years old, he's already going to be 70 in a few minutes. Later this
Wow.
year, late this year, he'll be 70. I think that this is the point where if somebody's willing to pay you money, you take the check. Plus, oh, there's another thing. Ridley Scott is a named director, and he directed Denzel Washington in American Gangster, a movie that was kind of considered acclaimed. And I think that Denzel Washington really liked being in that movie. So just
Hmm.
because of the relationship with Ridley Scott, I think if Ridley Scott calls him and say, "Hey, Denzel, we really want you for this Gladiator 2 movie," I guess Denzel said, "Yeah, all right, I'll do this stupid thing." I wonder if at the
Now,
end it'll be like a small role. You just see him a few minutes and he leaves.
yeah, I was wondering if like maybe he's the dude who like owns the gladiators, and then he just kind of gives them orders or like sets them up with training with people, and then maybe he like relates or has a bond with the Pedro Pascal main character somehow. But that was just what, because I'm like, he's probably too old to play as a gladiator, so maybe he's like just one of those robe wearing characters, you know. But it's just my
Yeah,
little speculation.
he's not going to be a gladiator. He'll be like what they said in the description. He's manipulative and manipulating things behind the scenes or something like
Oh, there you
that.
go. There you go.
Maybe that'll work somehow. I mean, certainly nobody can argue that Denzel Washington doesn't know how to act, but I don't understand what this movie is, and I'm not sure it needs to exist.
No, honestly, I would say it doesn't need to exist. First movie is great. Like, it's not even a movie where it's just where it like hints at a sequel. You know, it's like the perfect revenge story.
Right. That's why they should have given it just a different name, like they do a lot of times. Like even when they say Game of Thrones and then there's like that second title of House of the Dragon or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is Gladiator, a new rise of a new empire. Whatever it is, it's something else.
Yeah, like what if they had done like, you know, it would have been really cool if maybe he had done a sequel but not called it Gladiator at all, given it a different title of, you know, someone else had it. This is way far fetched, by the way, but you know, if another character in a different type of setting in the same universe and world or something. Like, instead of Gladiator, it's, Centurion was already made, so you can't take that one, but you could do like, Pilot um, or Warrior, or I don't know, Slave Master, anything. But Gladiator 2, it just seems so tacky, and just it's like it's trying to put it on equal footing with the first, and it just like not only does it not need a sequel, but I really do not think that it needs a continuation. Absolutely not.
I don't think so either. And just to go over the final few things just from that CinemaCon, you had Damien Chazelle is uh, is doing some kind of movie that I don't think they revealed what it is. It's
Well,
a
I like
his.
I do I have enjoyed Damien Chazelle's work. I was inspired by him a few years back just because of the kind of movies he's done at such a young age.
You know what? I
Um,
feel like Damien Chazelle started off with a bang. He started off with
yeah,
Whiplash, which was awesome. Awesome,
yeah,
that
it
movie.
was.
So great. And I was
Yeah,
so excited to see what he'd do next. And to be honest, everything that came after Whiplash did not get me excited like Whiplash. You had that First Man thing with Neil Armstrong. Yeah, it was all right. I
it
mean,
was
it's
all right.
fine. I watched that movie. It was okay. It wasn't Whiplash. It wasn't something that I really was thrilled about. Whiplash was really refreshing, and you're like, wow, who is this guy? What else is he going to do? But I don't know. He's kind of like Pearl Jam with the
So,
album 10.
have you by chance seen La La Land?
Okay, I've seen La La Land, and I think that it's an annoying movie. It's a movie that what he did was is that he wanted to cater to Hollywood to kiss their ass. Meaning, we went from Whiplash to Ass Kiss. Uh, I mean, I know that's not what the movie was called, but that's what it was called to me. And it's like, oh look, it's all meta. We're laughing at the industry, but with it. Oh, look at this, look at that. This kind of like a love letter to Hollywood, blah blah blah. And you know what?
Yeah.
Any movie that has people that start singing in the middle already loses like 40 points for my score. I I cannot. I know some people like musicals and whatever, and once in a while there will be a musical that I can accept as a musical. 99%, 90 something percent of musicals are crap. And
That is intriguing because I actually hate musicals, but I really liked this one. But I think that maybe I just haven't watched enough of them. But when I watched this and just seeing how how good the direction was for a lot of the music and just the scenes, I thought it was a little bit above the other ones that I've seen, at least modern day ones. But I don't think that musicals since have been that good. And as far as I mean, I thought it was a really good take for an original movie from him. But I can totally agree with you on the little like pandering to Hollywood and being like, a butt kiss to Hollywood. I kind of saw it as a love hate letter to Hollywood because I experienced the same thing when I was trying to pitch scripts up there way back in the day. But looking back at Hollywood now and being how as I would like never step foot in that place again. Watching the movie these days, it definitely gives me a different perspective on how people who are in Hollywood working there and living that life see Hollywood as a love hate, while the rest of people these days see Hollywood as a cesspool. And it's an interesting dichotomy. I think it really is, especially now that I'm older and the movie has been out for almost 10 years now. My perspective has changed quite a bit.
I guess. Listen, I didn't say he's not a competent director. I won't say that about him. I thought that he was competent. But La La Land, in 2 seconds, they're already like they're in the highway and there's traffic and they're dancing together on the cars and singing. That's like have you ever watched a soccer game? Football, but soccer, have you ever watched it?
Yeah.
That's like a red card. The movie starts, they're dancing and singing on the cars, red card.
Yeah, I mean, watching that scene now, I think the thing I found impressive about it is just how much they were able to pack into one take, or at least create the illusion of a single take. But I mean, as far as interesting concepts, they probably could have done better than. I mean, it's funny because it makes sense because that part of that highway in Los Angeles or leading into Los Angeles is always just packed full of vehicles, and it's like 60 miles per hour, bumper to
Yes,
bumper.
yes. There's really
Yeah,
a lot of traffic in Los Angeles. I'll give them that. But
yeah. But other than that, I mean, I totally see where you're going, or where you're coming from with it. Like I said, like I look back at that movie and I really enjoyed. I thought it was a really great technical movie for its time. But like I don't see the Hollywood the same way. And as it, I mean, also I'll be honest, I haven't really seen a good musical since that movie. But that's just me. But that's kind of where I stand on the film. But like I don't think it's as amazing as I used to. That's for certain.
all I know is that the movies that I've seen of his, Whiplash, excellent, excellent movie. That I have
Yeah.
nothing to say. La La Land, annoying, not competently made. Competently made.
Yeah.
He's not a bad director. Annoying. First Man, I would say, is the least out of the three. It
Mhm.
was just all right, and it was kind of boring. So
Yeah,
I,
he relied way too heavily on the whole shaky cam thing inside the cockpit for a lot of it, and tried to create tension from there. And I think that was hit and miss for me.
yeah, there was
Definitely.
something that it didn't work for me, that First Man movie. Again, I saw it in the theater, and I gave him a lot of credit. I'm like, wow, it's Damien Chazelle, but he really kind of that credit started eroding. With La La
Right.
Land, I said very competently made, but there was kind of this thing. Sometimes you have this kind of feeling, an underlying feeling, that you kind of think to yourself, this feels like something that he did to sort of pander and cater to Hollywood so that they would give him award nominations. Hollywood likes it when you send love letters to itself. And that movie was seen as a love letter. I don't think it was a hate letter. I think it was a love letter to Hollywood and the kind that they like. It was the exact ass kiss that they like. Very competently made ass kiss. Very, very competently made. But I still got annoyed. First Man, I couldn't even say that it was. It's not incompetent, but it wasn't like he outdid himself. I mean, I'll tell you this. I know a person, there's a lady I know that she loves musicals and weird stuff and dancing, and for her the opening scene in La La Land, she's this is the best thing that ever happened to her. Because she likes the singing and dancing and whatever it is. So at least if you like that nonsense, then it's there and it's good. Not nonsense. If you like it, it's fine. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, I totally know what you're saying, and I think that's a fair stance to take on it. Yeah.
I understand that it's really well done what he did. Plus, there were some dialogues there between Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. They had pretty good chemistry. There were some
Mhm.
conversations. When I sat and watched the movie, I didn't hate it. But the more I thought about it later, the more I kind of felt like this is too ass kissy. And then when I saw all the awards and all of them kissing each other's ass, I kind of felt like this was a bit too much. It was the wrong use of his skills. The guy has skills and it was the wrong use. And then First Man was just like, I don't know what he wanted. He wasn't right for that movie.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
this thing that he's doing here, I don't know what it is. But all I know is that he's one of those directors that started off with a bang, and it seems to be a case of diminishing returns. But we'll see what happens.
Interesting.
So you got that, and then let me see what else they were talking about. They're doing a GI Joe and Transformers crossover movie, which I think that this is the dumbest.
Wow.
I mean, it's a dumb idea, but as I mentioned it earlier today somewhere, that it's sort of both of these franchises have been mishandled in recent years. They both have had movies that have not generated the kind of money that Paramount wanted, and now it's a situation that's like two IPs aren't working. What do we do? Wait, let's put them together. It's the
Right.
same way that that in the back in the day we got Freddy Krueger versus Jason. So it was a Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th crossover. It's just that they made so many movies of each one. They weren't making a lot of money. They're like, okay, look, this guy against this guy, and then you're like, wow. Uh, no, I'm serious. Sometimes they do that, like Alien versus Predators. They're just like, you like aliens, you like Predators, and then you're not seeing their movies. What if it was Alien versus Predators? Oh wow. So people, it's just It's more like a gimmick, a quick gimmick cash grab. It's not something sustainable usually. It's you can get away with this once that people just don't know what you want, but they're just curious and maybe they'll look at it.
Yeah, it's
So
definitely like it's not as definitely not as stable as an Alien versus Predator movie though. This new one, because at least Aliens and Predator, at least they had like a lot of build up. They had films that built those two character types up so that when they had, when they had a conflict in a film, people were like, okay, I wonder what this is going to do against this move, because they all know the moves of those two creatures. But it's not like we've had a lot of we haven't really had a live action GI Joe project in quite some time, and so there's not really any build up for that.
there's no
Um,
buildup, and the last projects for each of these franchises was considered a disappointment. Rise of
yeah,
the Beast, Transformers was a shitty movie that didn't make a lot of money, and GI Joe, they tried to do something with all of their weird agenda, meddling, whatever it is.
mm,
Those things didn't go well. That last movie was a flop. So really, nobody cares. But combining the brands, it's like a Hail Mary pass. When you got nothing, that's what you do with these franchises. I assume that on a business level, there wasn't much other there weren't many other choices, so they did it. Uh, Another thing that they're saying is that they're going to be in a new scary movie, but they're not saying who's going to be in that movie. Uh,
interesting.
they're saying there's a new comedy from Trey Parker and Matt Stone. That I'll always take. Anything with Trey Parker
That
and Matt
actually
Stone.
sounds good.
Yeah, they usually know what they're doing. Ridley Scott is developing a movie about the Bee Gees. I think they should leave Ridley Scott alone. He's 86 years old. I think that at 86 years old, you should sit home and enjoy your time. I'm not trying to be mean. It's like somebody, oh, you're an ageist. An ageist, you can say if I said that at 50 years old or 60 years old or 70 years old. Once you're in 86,
My goodness, man. I mean, it's not like they're asking him to go out and play basketball or anything. They're asking him to go and direct a movie, man.
right.
That ain't easy.
That ain't you need like to really see the full scope of so many moving parts, so many things to be in
You
charge
need to be
of.
awake.
Right. I mean, 86, that is a difficult thing to ask of an 86-year-old man to be in charge of this type of production. Now, if they would have said that he's a producer and there's a team of people working under him, they meet with him once a day, he gives some input, and they go and they run with it, I think that would make more sense to me. Him being the hands-on director at this age, it's a lot to ask of the guy. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for him. I just don't know why he's become their go-to guy for everything. I said at this age, I don't know how much you can really renew and bring something fresh to the table.
All
Uh,
right.
they brought out Chris Hemsworth and Lupita Nyong'o to talk about their. I never know how to say Lupita Nyong'o. I just say Ngoyo, and that's probably not even right.
Yeah.
I get.
I said Ngoyo.
What
Or no, Nyong'o, right? Nyong'o or something?
Goyo. I think it's cool to say Lupita Ngoyo. I don't know why. That sounds cool to me. That's what her name should be. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I actually like her, but I don't know what movies she's doing. Chris Hemsworth usually
I like him too.
they give him flops. Oh, and there's a Running Man reboot. I mean, I like Edgar Wright
Yeah.
and I like Glenn Powell, but I don't really need a Running Man reboot. Running Man was with Arnold Schwarzenegger. What I've noticed is when they try to remake 80s movies that used to have Arnold Schwarzenegger in them, they usually can't capture that charm and magic and whatever it was.
Right. Right. No, not like they used to.
No, and also he was exactly right for these kind of muscly roles that he just walks around and even the fact that he's not necessarily the best actor and his English is funny, it all kind of adds to the charm, whatever it
Yeah.
is. He has all these muscles. He says, "Whoa, get me to the chopper," and like everybody likes it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What can you do? It's a certain thing that you can't recapture again. I don't necessarily need to see people trying to do this. Anytime they've done this, it's failed. Now maybe this one will be different. This will be the exception. This one will succeed. But all I know is if you have a certain thing that you keep trying to do and it keeps failing, why do you insist on doing more of it usually?
It's a great question. And I don't think they'll ever learn that lesson.
And then it says that I guess they're releasing A Quiet Place Day 1 in June. Transformers 1, I guess that's some kind of an animated prequel to the prequel of September 13.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Gladiator November 20 November. Whatever. I don't know.
A Quiet Place day one actually looked pretty interesting to me. Plus, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what their political leanings are, like what how they view people in outside of Hollywood. But Krasinski and Emily Blunt, they always seem to be on top of things, or at least understand how to make their visions become reality. When I saw Emily Blunt talking about when she's being given scripts by people, she makes very specific choices, and she doesn't seem to favor the writers who try to do pandering to certain social ideologies. She seems to skip over those scripts and focus more on, on proper storytelling. And I wonder if her husband views it the same way. I mean, the last two Quiet Place movies were pretty good. So I was kind of hoping that maybe this third one would be just as good. Although I don't know if John Krasinski's directing it or not.
I don't know either. I think this one like a prequel to the prequel. I saw the first Quiet Place, and then I said to myself, I thought this was a good movie. I liked it, and I don't need to see any more of them.
Okay, so it's not John this time. It's Michael Sarnowski. So what has he done? What has he made?
This isn't even a sequel to those two Quiet Plays. It's like
No, it's
day
the pre.
one.
It's
It's a
the first
prequel.
day.
Who even needed this? I barely needed the sequel, which I haven't seen to date, because I said to myself, you know what? It's a nice gimmick. They can't speak and whatever, which again it's very weird because those creatures are always going to hear some sound. So the whole premise is kind of wobbly to begin with. But let's say you get enough suspension of disbelief and goodwill from me for one movie. I thought
Yeah,
that was fine. Didn't feel like I needed more. I really felt that that was the end of my journey with these movies. Let's say you really liked it, you wanted to see a sequel. I don't know how the sequel was. If you liked it, it's cool. A prequel,
right.
I think that's already they've crossed the line. I don't need a prequel to this. I get it. It was quiet, and you can't make noise. Just shut up already. No pun
No,
intended.
fair enough. Did you yeah? Did you happen to see that Nicolas Cage movie called Pig? And it's about like Nicolas Cage searching for his pig, and it was like a Sundance type film.
I did
But
not see that. I almost want to see it, but just the way you described it, and I'm thinking of Nicolas Cage talking
well,
to a pig. I
no,
there's
so he's trying to get his pig back, but apparently Nicholas pulls off like a show-stopping performance in that movie. So I was asking if you had seen that because apparently the guy who directed that is the Quiet Place Day One director.
oh, I don't know what to say. Maybe the guy is a good director. I'm not saying he's not a good director. All I'm
Well, I'll let
saying
you
is
know if I see pig.
all, all I know is that Quiet Place was with the Quiet Place movie. That first movie was fine. And again, these are just my opinions. I know you liked La La Land. You liked Quiet Place too, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong. This is just my opinion. I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
less of people if you went and you enjoyed. I'm happy for you. I wish I had more patience for stuff. I guess
Well, how
I've
dare
become
you have different views, Price?
I've
How dare you?
I become cynical and grumpy, and I feel
Well, movies suck,
right.
dude. Like they suck so bad these days.
It does, and which is a good segue to a movie that I saw today. I saw a movie called Civil War.
Oh no, you saw it. Okay,
Yes,
what you
yes.
think?
I have like a pass where if I go to the movie, because I pay one flat fee for the theater, so I can go multiple times during the month to the theater.
Okay,
Do you get what I'm saying? It's kind of like an easy like a pass. You just go in there
I
and
have one. I have one of those. It's from a different thing, but yeah, that I totally get what you're saying.
right. So basically, I can just go to whatever movie I want. I'm not even buying a specific ticket. So I just saw this was coming out, and I thought it's kind of a controversial movie. Maybe people said something. I didn't hear anybody that saw it, but I just thought to myself, this is going to be one of those movies that you should see what it is. And I saw it, and I thought it was really annoying, and I didn't like it at all. And of course, then I looked, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a great score, and all these people kissing its ass. And I know why they're kissing its ass. It's a movie that it's trying to show a situation that could be, let's say, a few years from now, this civil war in America. The thing is, though, it doesn't want to say what started the Civil War. It doesn't really want to explain the different factions and what exactly is going on. It's sort of
Mm.
vague, and what it really focuses on is a group of journalists that their job is to go, even when people are killing each other, to take pictures so they can document what's going on and then I guess report on it or something like that. This seems like a movie that's trying to symbolically be favorable to the legacy media. Like,
Oh my
look at how
goodness.
important these reporters are. Would you know all these people were killed if they weren't here? Look at them. They're these access media reporters. They take photographs in the field. What would you do without them? And I'm like, I don't know. And really, when I was watching the movie, between you and
Wow.
me, I was kind of hoping that those reporters, and I don't want to. I'm not saying in real life. I'm saying that in a movie, as the characters, I kind of was hoping that they'd get taken out quickly, so that the movie would end quickly, so that I wouldn't have to continue to watch them, because there's nothing about them that I like. They just seem like an annoying group of people. I didn't like them. I didn't care what happens to them. I felt no connection with them. And there were some decent actors in this movie. Kirsten Dunst is a decent actress. It's not that there was like bad people acting in it. It's just the movie itself was just, in my opinion, just a pompous, self-congratulatory type of turd.
Well, what does Backyard TARDIS ask? He said, "Does it explain how California and Texas ended up on the same side of an American Civil
That's
War?"
it. They don't fully they don't fully explain, but I can tell him how they ended up on the same side. I think if I had to describe this movie, and again, this is my opinion, uh, and I want to start off by saying this. This is not a political channel. I'm not especially political. It's not like I sit around and talk about politics all day. In
Yeah.
this specific situation, there's a few things that I have to address that have to do with politics, because I don't know how else to address them. I feel like this is a movie that was made by somebody who generally has like the orange man bad syndrome, or TDS, or whatever you want to call it, but
Mm.
didn't want to make it seem, but didn't want you to know that that's what he is. So
Ah,
they're like,
I
well,
see.
California and Texas, they united to go against the. It's as if, I guess, there's a president that he's doing a third term, and he's become a dictator and taken control of the country. This is vaguely what I understand. And then there's some forces that resisted. I guess those are the California and Texas together. I don't think this would ever be realistically true, that
Mm.
these two places would team up and they would be the thing. Doesn't make any sense at all. But I feel like this is a way of sort of sidestepping any criticism. If they would have said it's just California, they would have told them, well, you got that syndrome, you got the TDS. So instead, they're like, oh, no, no, don't you see it's Texas and California? And even the president, to me, I have no way of explaining why. I feel like he's more of a orange man insert than the sleepy insert, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not 100%. You barely see him, but just my instinct tells me that that was the direction that they were going for. I could be wrong. I'll give them credit that they try to pretend it's vague, but there's a few things that happen in this movie that make me feel that it's not vague, that there's like kind of a patting each other back of, see, that's why journalists are important. See, if there was a
Mhm.
civil war, you'd really want these journalists to be documenting whatever they did. And I thought to myself, if there was this kind of war, I don't give a shit what these journalists do. F them.
Yeah. You
That's
know
what
what
I
a
was thinking watching the movie.
you know what a really good war movie is that I saw not too long ago? It was 1917. I thought that was a great war movie.
To be honest, I haven't seen that movie. Uh,
Oh,
I'll be completely honest with you. For some reason, this is like my Achilles heel of movies.
yeah.
Uh, Anytime it's a war movie, a lot of them, there's some classics that I've seen. I've seen Apocalypse Now. There's some classics that I've seen. Anytime there's something that's flat out a war movie from start to finish, like you're sitting 2, 3 hours and it feels like you're in a war, those movies are usually not my favorite. Even
Okay.
ones that are sort of very well known and whatever. If I can steer away from those movies, usually I often try to, if they're not classics, if it's not like mandatory viewing. The reason for it is there's kind of a sadness and bummer about those movies that I don't love for whatever reasons. I don't love it. Maybe because it's rooted much more in truth. A lot of times, it's not like
Right.
if you're watching Back to the Future and Marty McFly is in the DeLorean and he's traveling to 1955, you don't think that tomorrow you're going to get into the DeLorean and travel there. Whereas some of these movies that could be even historical documents or semi-historical documents or really reflect on what happened during this war, and you see what war looks like, and you come out of it feeling shitty. So sorry for the word, but you know what I'm saying. They're not uplifting. They're movies that you go into them knowing they're going to be a bummer. They're a bummer, and you leave when they're a bummer. And
That is fair enough, but I think that if you watch 1917, you might actually enjoy it because it does have an uplifting theme, and it's more of like it is a war movie, but it's more of like this one guy's like survival his story, like his desperation to survive while trying to complete this mission thing. And what's really cool about the movie is that most of it is filmed in a long take style. So many of the scenes are like single long takes where a lot is happening and moving parts and actors coming in and pulling off their performances and stuff. And I think it's such a really cool way of filming a war movie that I haven't seen in a long time. So I was so when you're talking about, I'm just like, man, I bet if Price actually like tries to sit down and watch it, he may actually like that movie. Just on a technical level, it's really impressive.
I understand. I'm not saying that it isn't. A lot of movies that I think that have been these kind of war things, there's been some good stuff that I know uh, have been done in a very impressive way, and I'm not saying that that's not true. My
Yeah,
feeling is not the quality of the movie itself. It's usually the subject matter itself for different reasons. I don't know
that's
why.
fair.
I don't know why I don't get. I know people that get excited if it's a war movie. It's like the best thing that ever happened to them. I don't know why for me it's not exciting. I'll take a war like Star Wars, but the real thing where you're sitting there and you feel like now they brought you to the battlefield, I don't always love it. I can appreciate when it's done well. I've seen some movies like this throughout the years, especially the more classic ones. But usually when there's a new one, or especially in the past 10 years or something, 10, 15 years, usually when there's a new one, I drag my feet. I admit it.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, and honestly, if you really think about it, war movies are really niche.
For sure. For sure
I mean,
they're niche.
at least like the World War specific movies, those are definitely niche. Not for everybody, because of course not everybody wants to go in there and see war happening for like 2 hours. So I totally get that. It's like and it's so funny because you and I can relate on so many things, and then all of a sudden it's just like I like I'll be like super crazy about these, and you won't be as crazy about those, but that's just funny, honestly, because it's like like we relate on so much, and then war movies, it's like, man.
Right.
But
I
yeah, I
mean,
totally get that.
again, sometimes there's things that I like that other people wouldn't like, and this is one of the things that I'm conflicted about because I can a lot of times really understand the quality of the movie, but at the same time, there's just something about it that I don't love watching. It
Mm,
doesn't. I guess I like escapism stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that makes me feel like the opposite of escaping. Uh, it's just a feeling. I don't really know, and it's very, very personal to me. It's not that I expect everybody to be that way. This movie, on the other hand, why didn't I mind? Because this movie, you're not taking it seriously because it's some kind of quote unquote apocalypse or whatever it is. It's not a sort of semi apocalypse. It's happening, but it's not in our reality, really.
mm, yeah.
So watching this doesn't really matter. I do think that there was one chance that they got. This is what I'm saying, that it's all kind of nuanced. There was one chance in the movie that they managed to roll out a guy who's sort of you know, uh ist and phobe type of guy.
Hmm.
Kind of paint a picture of a kind of hillbilly-ish kind of guy that doesn't take too kindly to strangers or whatever it is.
Oh, you talking about Civil War?
Yes, about the movie. I feel like there was
Okay.
one character shoved in there to just. That's why I'm telling you that it feels like a guy who had that orange man syndrome, but didn't want to admit it. Whoever wrote the
That's the
screenplay.
guy who was like, okay, okay, you're an American. What kind of American are you?
Right, right. That scene itself, like, I felt that it was put in there really and you didn't see the whole thing in the trailer. If you see the entire scene, they're really trying to bring that point home that you have people like that. It's not a coincidence that his skin color, his accent, whatever it is that he's saying, whatever, something just about it. you know, if sometimes you watch something and maybe you don't realize 100% where they were trying to, you know, poke you with some crap, but you
Yeah.
just have this bad feeling like somebody's like selling you some nonsense.
Hmm.
This movie has moments like that, and and I'll say that if the guy was actually confident of his work, he would have created a story, explained who the different sides are, what they're fighting about, what this war is, and then tried to create a few characters and maybe we feel a connection to and care about it. But instead, it just comes off, I don't care about the characters. They don't want to explain why there's a war. They toss into the mix a few of these kind of I don't take kindly to people like you in my town or whatever it is, and then
Yeah, that was really good. That was really good. I felt
well,
like you were playing a recording on YouTube or something.
no, that was me. That was me.
Dang.
I have a strange accent that shifts around to different places. So so in any case, you understand what I'm saying. They have this thing, something about it. It just annoys me. The movie annoys me. I think I'm gonna try to do a review on it. I don't know if anybody even cares,
That's
but
funny. I was going to ask you if you. I think you should totally do a review on it.
I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna do a review. Maybe a few people would be interested in it because I do feel like the guy wasn't confident enough in his idea to really say what he wants. If you want to do the TDS movie, do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
go all in. Do whatever it is that you wanted, but don't dance around the subject and pretend that it's California and Texas when you kind of feel like a jerk. And the whole
Makes me
thing
feel like there was some stuff cut out of it.
could be cut out. And the other thing is that the mainstream media journal is being like the best thing, the best of humanity or whatever
Of
they're trying.
course.
I'm not saying they're trying to say that they're the best. They're also showing that they're very numb to keep taking pictures of these things. But the underlying message is how important those access media journalists are. And you know what? Like I said, if that movie was supposed to convince me that I like those journalists or that I don't know any of other things that it believed in, it didn't convince me of anything, and it didn't really tell a compelling story. And you know how I always tell you, there's sometimes a moment in the theater I kind of feel like falling asleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally had a moment in the middle of this movie. It was just dragging. It also, it didn't
Wow.
feel like they're really in the apocalypse. I feel like if they're in the apocalypse, you're expecting crazy things to happen.
Yeah.
Crazy things. They're like going on this road trip. They want to film this, they want to film that. And there's long stretches that they're just driving. And I'm thinking to myself, in reality, there would be a bunch of people like raiding them, beating them up, like terrible things would be happening. But somehow, for large stretches of the movie, it just plays out in a way that doesn't
Yeah.
ring true to me. You
Sounds
know
like a
how
road trip movie.
what'd you say?
Sounds like a road trip movie, and then there's Civil War being talked about.
Something like that. It's just like you know how in The Last of Us, let's say there's everything is like the apocalypse and they're trying to drive from one place to another, but
Yeah.
usually almost everywhere they go, there's a bunch of crap happening to them.
Yeah. They
Uh,
can barely get a moment to rest.
right. It's like barely get a moment to rest. But in this one, I felt that there were too many moments that they got to rest. It's like whatever's happening doesn't match the reality of what's happening to them.
Wow.
And I guess that bothered me. But
Wow.
that's that. I'll try to do a video explain more what I didn't like about it. But I personally did not like that movie. I wouldn't say that I would recommend it. And if you look
Yeah.
on Rotten Tomatoes, what does Rotten Tomatoes say? I'm sure it's going to be like now we're going to do
150% fresh. The greatest Civil War movie ever conceived.
they're gonna write, oh, it's a cautionary tale for journalism or something like that. 84% out of 161 reviews certified fresh. That's not bad.
Not
Uh,
bad at all.
Tough and unsettling by design, Civil War is a gripping close-up look at the violent uncertainty of life in a nation in crisis.
Okay, you should just become a movie trailer guy now. Just do that. You'll make bank.
I mean, at least a few people said it was crap, but but here, A Civil War is an extremely well-made and violent thriller that doesn't make any political statements except to imply that our union may not be as secure as we think.
Oh,
And
you
that's the,
think?
but that's the thing. The movie doesn't say anything. It's just a bunch of crap. And it's the same guy that made Ex Machina, which I actually like that movie. But I feel like this is the Damien Chazelle syndrome.
Mm, where they do something good at first, and they just kind of fall off over time.
Or maybe they had potential, but what happens is that the system takes control of them. From making this cool sci-fi with a robot and a person, suddenly they're sitting around and they're doing this kind of weird, not completely TDS, but something that doesn't rub me the right way. And I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care who you voted for. I'm not political. It's not that I personally even like whatever. I don't like that when I want to see a movie, when I see these kind of filmmakers obsessed. You know what I mean? They were
Yeah.
obsessed with him when he was in office, obsessed when he's not in office, when he's obsessed when he's going to be in office. And it's just like, I just want to watch a movie. I don't feel like talking about this crap. I don't want to, I don't want people to keep, reminding me of that how they feel
Well,
about
yeah,
this
well,
stuff.
imagine like being the director and going through all of that trouble, watching scenes over and over and over again to get a vague anti-dictator message out there. Like think about the people who make these movies about him, right? Like think about that that's that series on Showtime, an entire series about the former president, right?
Right.
It's just like imagine just being in that mindset where you're just like, I'm gonna make an entire show about this man, and you're just like, and you're just going through all the motions, all that hard work. That is dedication to TDS that is on a level unachievable by the normal
Right.
person.
Right. I mean, there have been presidents that I liked more and liked less, but I don't sit around whining all day and making stupid crap all day. Now, I'll be honest. It's not that you see it and it's 100%. I've seen stuff that's a
Right,
lot
right,
more blunt than this. It's sort of trying to tiptoe around things. But like I said, it seemed to me like a guy that had that, but didn't want you to know that he has it.
right.
The guy that made the movie and wrote it and directed, he has just what I said. He just doesn't want you to know that he has it. So he's like, why don't I do this? Why don't I say that? And then people won't know. Why don't I do this? And maybe it'll be more vague. If I do this, they won't notice. But I don't know. I noticed, and it just seems like I
Yeah,
don't know.
no,
If
that's
you
fair.
like movies about about TDS, then maybe you enjoy it. But I don't feel like watching that. In addition, that the whole premise and everything was dumb. There's a lot of things that don't work about this movie. But in any case,
Yeah.
even the ones that are kind of complimenting, it doesn't say much about America, but it says plenty about war. Like, yeah, it doesn't say anything.
Says nothing.
Uh, I was waiting for somebody to say something about how journalists were great in the cautionary tale. I really thought that somebody would say that, but
No. Which would have been really funny. She would have put that in the review and all that.
right. That's what I would think that they would go for. That it's a cautionary. They're not talking about the. Somebody has to say that the journalists are the best, but I guess they probably think that. That's the reason why it's getting good grades.
Yeah, it just seems like another case of just like a road trip movie just getting overhyped by critics. And you know what? I'm not too interested. I don't know. I think your review will be enough for me personally.
Yeah. Okay, there's a few funny ones, but then I'll leave it alone. A film that transcends political boundaries, focusing on war journalism, the moral dilemmas faced by those who risk their lives to tell stories that cannot be ignored, and the personal transformation necessary to carry out such an inhuman task. This is the one that they are kissing ass to
Wow.
the journalist.
Well, at least they're honest. It's like, hey, this movie does a lot of picture taking in it.
Here, Garland isn't as interested in liberal versus conservative as in war itself, though the film's primary antagonists, mostly white men, have all the markings of insurrectionists. Instead, the director explores what a first world civil war might look like. So, between the lines, what I'm thinking to myself is annoying. This lady from Seattle is really excited about, if you know what I'm saying.
Amazing.
Many viewers will reject this film because it refuses to confirm their biases or take a stance on real world issues, but its ambiguities and interpretive potential are exactly what make Civil War great filmmaking. 4 out of 4. No way. No way.
Wow. So the reviewer admits that they don't tell you what the plot is, and she gave it a perfect score.
Right. This is this is just crap. I'll leave it alone. I'll say I'll sum it up in beyond the TDS aspect. And again, I don't care who you voted for. I just don't want to see movies with that. That's just not my preference. But
Yeah.
what I'll say is that have you ever been in class and maybe you had one guy in your classroom as a kid growing up, and this guy is always trying to impress the teacher? He wants to use these kind of fancy words. He's trying to really impress the teacher, but you could tell that he's kind of just he's just he he's you don't buy him.
Like he tries too hard to
He
impress,
tries
to
too
where
hard to impress the
it looks
teacher, and
cringe.
neither the teacher nor you really buy what he's selling.
Yeah.
That's what this movie feels like. Like he wants to use big words and seems like he's very sophisticated, but in fact, he's not as sophisticated as he thinks he is. And at the end, he's just trying to tiptoe around different things that he wanted to say by not really saying him, and hoping that people say, "Wow, that in its ambiguity, it's all the more powerful." And I say, no, it isn't. It's nonsense. In its ambiguity, it shows that you couldn't take a position, you couldn't say what you wanted to say, and you still tried to stick in those things that you wanted, but hope that nobody would say that you stuck them in. So you wanted to have your cake and eat it too. And that's what the movie is.
Darn.
But
Man.
that's oh, and somebody wrote Brainy Smurf. I think Smurfs also. I think Paramount also said they were doing a Smurfs movie with Rihanna as Smurfette or something like that. I
Oh.
don't really care. I don't even know what
Oh.
they're doing. I mean, I don't dislike Rihanna. I don't know. I mean, she could do a voice if it's an animated movie. She like do a voice of Smurfette. There's no reason why she couldn't do it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do with the Smurfs.
Oh, the Smurfs movies are just so terrible. I can't stand them.
Yeah, they're not. The Smurfs was good in the animated version, the old school
Yeah.
two-dimensional animated Smurfs. That's the best Smurfs. All the stuff that they did later with like Neil Patrick Harris, I don't know what those things. I'm trying. I don't know why I think he's in the movie, but those things were annoying. They're very forgettable and they never really capture. They try to make them like they're in the real world or something,
Yeah. Man.
which was crap. But we've been talking about a lot of stuff, and we haven't actually been getting into the GamerGate stuff, which there's so much going on. There was just so much on all the other stuff today that
Yeah.
and I want to welcome. I see that a lot of people are joining us, and we're excited about that.
Yes.
Perfect time. Let us what's going on today. What's the latest? I know people are still arguing. There's this game, that Star Wars Outlaws game, that they decided
Yeah.
that the main protagonist would be a woman that looks like a boy, and not even like a
So
awkward looking boy.
so I'm noticing, so there's a couple things that are happening today. One is the Star Wars Outlaws thing. It's continuing from yesterday. Posters just exploding everywhere. One thing I noticed, and this is something I touched upon in my video from earlier today, is that no one can really agree on whether this main character is beautiful or not. And if they're trying to push a DEI thing with this main character. But information's coming up. It's being exposed about the development team and the kind of the things that they fight for. There's a little thing about the team of the game. I can't remember what site it's on, but I'm gonna find it later and then touch upon it. But and I think Nerdrotic even reacted to this, which I thought was pretty funny. But they basically, these employees of this game, whoever are working on this game, they are all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. They have their hands in a certain position, and honestly, it looks pretty cult-like. But they make it very clear in their descriptions of what they're trying to do with the game and with gaming in general. So, from what I'm understanding, this might be a woke Star Wars game. I was a bit skeptical on if it was if it was woke at all, or if it was just going to have a masculine looking female character with a generally okay story. But it turns out, just from everything I'm reading, with the community manager that for Star Wars Outlaws / Ubisoft, who was just throwing racist and sexist rhetoric at white males for like years and years, um, And on top of that, and I think someone corrected me today from one of my previous videos, but the lead writer of the game, Star Wars Outlaws, is protected. And she was apparently protected a day or two before the game's official story trailer came out. So that's a great sign for the game as well. I did like a little post. It went like super viral. I couldn't even believe that it like hit a 1.5 million views, but there were so many people that disagreed. They were just saying like, no, she's beautiful in this part. In this picture, she's great looking. And then in that picture, she's great looking. It's like, if you look at the gameplay, or not just the gameplay, but just the cutscenes from this trailer, there are several instances where this lady just looks awful. Just so bland, uninteresting, scrawny chick, chisel chin and everything. And they pick like the most like the most good looking shot out of the entire trailer, where she's just sitting down looking ahead at an angle. But the reality is that it's a horrible translation from supermodel actress to in-game video game character. And a lot of people are also ignoring the fact that a lot of this DEI stuff is being pushed from the top. I mean, there have been articles proving this. There have been quotes from interviews of Microsoft executives saying that they want these gaming studios that work under them to take away the proportions of women in the video games, to take away the proportions, their accentuations that make them who they are. And basically, people are using a broader term called uglification, which is something that I don't fully disagree with, but I think it's a little bit more in specific cases. But it's definitely being pushed from the top down. So that's one issue that's going on with GamerGate. So like for instance, today, a bunch of Riot Games employees, or at least ex-employees like artists, community managers, PR agents, what have you, or even developers, coming out and attacking gamers, admitting that they are on board with pushing that DEI agenda in video games, and then making up a bunch of nonsense about Grumps, for example. And for those who don't know Grumps, he's one of the people who have spearheaded this movement for what they call Gamergate 2, but it's really just gamers pushing back against DEI being injected into video games and ruining them forever. And Grumps is an ex-WoW developer. He was one of the OG World of Warcraft developers. He's been in the business for a long time. He's currently making his own video game. They're just trying to smear this guy every single day in the worst ways imaginable. And then on top of that, almost every single person that engages with this man are also being harassed and attacked by these people and put under this big racist, misogynistic umbrella by people who work within the industry. So there's a huge friction between gamers who are trying to get this stuff out of their games, and then in-game developers, of which there are a lot of coming out of the woodworks right now, pushing against them.
I would say that they fear him because he breaks a lot of their narratives. He is they talk about diversity. Well, technically, he could be in the category of being a diverse person, which I'm sure annoys them because they want to attack something they can't. So like he put a post today that they're trying to attack his appearance by showing old photos where he was he weighed more than he did now, but since then he actually gone on a diet. He's in good shape now and he looks completely different, but they don't want to actually show those photos. They try to show him in a negative light physically, and also it's weird because I actually wrote in a tweet today. I wrote in some tweet that it's strange how they seem to pretend that they want diversity and that they promote tolerance, but at the end they're really mean to him and trying to sort of say negative things about his appearance of how he looked 6-7 years ago, and since he's changed his life. So they're trying to show that. And then at the same time, they have no tolerance towards opinions because his opinions are different than theirs. But the reality is, the reason why they pick on him so much is that to have this kind of real executive that has a real track record, that's done something in this industry, has seen it change over the years, and he can bring receipts and really explain how every single thing happened. This is something that they're just working overtime to try to discredit him, because if anybody looks at this guy in their eyes and they think that he's even somewhat legit, it reflects poorly on them. It's the same way that they don't like seeing Gothics talk about the
Black
black
girl gamers,
girl gamers or
exactly.
whatever. They don't like seeing her talking about it. She has experience. She says what she thinks. They all start flipping out. It's the same thing that also, I mean, even Cabrutus Rambo, in theory, would be considered a diverse person, the kind that they like to cater to or whatever, they pander to, whatever they're trying to do. At the end of the day, he doesn't like their games of Sweet Baby
Yeah.
Inc. So, you know,
Yeah, and Tim Hayes is right too. People are going back to retro video games. I'm going back to retro video games. Several people I know, lots of people in the comments in my videos specifically. That's where I actually get a lot of feedback, which is really helpful. But people are constantly saying they're voting with their wallets. They're going back to the old games. They're not buying into this crap, which is cool, actually.
maybe this is my time. This is my time to shine. I can really start a retro gaming channel and
Yeah.
just what do people even do? I mean, I thought to myself, if I just play the game. What do I do? I mean, I'm
Just create a price of gaming
price of
channel.
channel and hook up. But what am I going to do? I'm going to play like the Legend of Zelda 1. What am I supposed
Yeah,
to?
absolutely. Play Super Mario, play ColecoVision, Atari. Like, you know what? Just rock Galaga for 12 hours straight. I guarantee you that would get way more attention than the mainstream titles. That's for sure. I don't know if you've looked at Suicide Squad lately, but that thing barely has like 100
Right.
people
Nobody
playing. They're,
wants to
they're
play
about to
that game.
cancel the live service in the future for this game.
Right. No, that looks like a terrible game. I wouldn't want to play it.
Oh, and
But
there's another issue. There's another issue that before I forget. They're
no,
trying to
go on, go
really
on.
screw up Tomb Raider. I mean, they are really trying to screw up Tomb Raider. I mean, they're trying to rewrite her, change her appearance. They're changing her so much that they have people like Brianna Wu coming out in defense of OG Tomb Raider. And Brianna Wu is like a very progressive person. So this is a very crazy situation. I don't know if you've seen the game poster, but there's this poster where Crystal Dynamics have advertised their new Tomb Raider direction. And what happens in this is that you have Tomb Raider, Lara Croft on the top, and then you have the most diverse, most physically disabled group of characters I've ever seen in a video game. There's literally it's like a Tomb Raider squad that works with Lara Croft because it's their diverse team. So it's no longer just Lara Croft. She's got her diverse team with her. There's this black chubby chick with
Oh
both
no.
legs missing,
I
two
don't like I
crowbars
don't
as
like
her
where
feet
this is going.
with a bow. Like, so she's physically disabled in both legs, and she's black and chubby, has an afro, and she's a Tomb Raider, dude. Like, this is the craziest stuff. There's no problem with people of a different skin color. But this is pandering to the max. Like, they're fundamentally changing Tomb Raider to make it seem like they're diluting her presence in her own games, and they're going to be giving the attention to more of her peers this time around. It looks like so. And this is more DEI nonsense. It's just the craziest thing ever. This is not the first time they've done something like this. They did this in Wizards of the Coast, or Wizards of the Coast pushed out I don't know if it was Wizards of the Coast or Magic the Gathering, or what was it? Whatever they did, where they came out with Lord of the Rings style cards, and then Aragorn was made black and stuff. It's the same type of thing with that, but they're doing that with Tomb Raider, and it is just absurd. I don't think we've had a good Tomb Raider game in quite a long time. Even with the remasters of the original Tomb Raider games, Crystal Dynamics is all like, "Oh, this is such a racist game," and we just want to point out, they give you a disclaimer right before you play the game. It's like, oh yeah, there was a lot of racism in this game, and we just want to make people known of it, that we don't stand by it, even though we remade it so that people could play it. So yeah, we just want to let you guys know we hate what the original game did, and it's all racist and stuff. Anyway, enjoy. And so anybody playing the game is going to feel super guilty because they're playing like an extremely racist game. And they've just lost the plot, and they are obviously quite clearly poisoned by DEI. Sorry for the rant, buddy.
No, this is your field of expertise. I want you to say whatever you think. And by the way, a lot of people are agreeing with you in the chat. Backyard TARDIS, who's a good friend of mine, he's saying that she no longer raids tombs anymore in this new game. Or
Oh, okay. Oh man, she doesn't raid tombs, and what does she do?
nobody knows, man. I don't know, but they're really trying to really spoil things for people. Tomb Raider is even something that I'm familiar with, and yeah, I mean, they took something where it used to be this kind of like a sexy kind of woman doing all this cool stuff, and now it's all like you said. It seems like a DEI overload.
Yeah, it's
And
a dilution of the character's presence. Like that's the first thing I thought of. They're trying to add all of these characters in. First off, to make the fans mad. Fans have made it plenty clear to Crystal Dynamics. Okay, Crystal Dynamics knows what the fans think. That's thanks to Melanie Mack, some of the OG devs from the old games. I mean, fans have made it very clear to these people. What do? Over diversify the game to where it's like there's more characters that can be fit onto a box cover, dude. Like it's stupid. It's so
totally,
stupid.
totally, yeah, and
But that's the biggest thing right now. I all the Kotaku stuff, all those journalists, they're going into hiding. All these people that get called out. I've had 4 or 5 game developers preemptively block me so that I can't report on them. But it's so funny because I have 2 Twitters, so I mean, and one of them's like super secret ops, so they'll never
most of
find
us
me.
have a few. Yeah, it's always good to have another one. That happens. That's the only reason I have another one, is because they block, and then I can see what's going on another one. That's
Yeah, I don't know
absolutely the
why they
reason.
block. It's like it's almost like the only thing they can do to send a message is by blocking because that's all it is now. Because
No,
it
no,
doesn't
but for
really.
me, this is the same thing that, like, I was also criticizing the guy that made the movie. It's this cowardly thing. If you have something to say, then say it. And if somebody is arguing with you and you have an argument, if you can explain what you've done and why it's good, go ahead. I can explain my
Yeah,
position without cursing you out. I can just explain what my position is. If you're not able to explain your position and all you can do is block me and run away, then how can I take your argument seriously? Then there's something wrong with you.
yeah. No, I fully agree.
And yeah, that thing with Star Wars Outlaw, that man, that character does not look like a woman. And the sad thing is that they showed pictures of the actress that they actually hired for that role. And in
Yeah.
real life, the actress is pretty, but somehow they managed to make the actress from looking pretty in real life to looking like a weird, awkward little boy
Yeah, she
in
looks
the
like Matt
game.
Damon, the Matt Damon puppet from Team
Right, right.
America.
There were at least some good memes, if nothing else.
Those were
The
so great too.
the memes were, some of them had her looking like the guy from the movie The Warriors. Some of them had her looking like the guy from Matt Damon, like Matt Damon from Team America: World Police. Let me see if I can find.
And yeah, if you see her from certain angles in the trailer, like if she's looking sideways, her face straight up looks like a crescent moon. Like her chin. It's like someone said it in my comments, the crimson chin. It's insane. They're like, "Oh, well here's this beautiful frontal picture of her face." Like, dude, if you look at her from the side, it looks like she's about to stab you.
So this is something that I saw that the Critical Drinker posted this and gave me a good chuckle. The Matt Damon one. I don't know if he did
Oh,
it or if
can you
he
show
got
it?
some. Yeah, let me see if I can find it. I thought that really funny. On the left is the character in this game that she's supposed to be a woman. On the right, it's Matt Damon and Team America: World Police, and they actually look very similar. And it's really, really pathetic. You also have a few other things here that came up that they were trying to say that it's like Sigourney Weaver. And it's not
Yeah.
Sigourney. Sigourney Weaver looked like a woman always. I mean, you could say that
Yes.
they didn't put her in heavy makeup in that movie or whatever it is, but there were enough shots and that you could see that she's clearly a woman.
Well, plus
Uh,
she's a heartthrob of her time. Like this character isn't a heartthrob of her time.
no, no, this one they just they made it look this way on purpose. Let me see. There was something else that okay. This was another weirdo that I was dealing with today.
Okay.
That they tried to say, uh, like somebody says, "Oh, the spelling mistakes. Wokeness is turning women into men," and is just Sarah Connor. meaning they were trying to say like, oh, people didn't complain about Sarah Connor, why are you now complaining about that girl from Star Wars? Which is such a dumb gaslighting uh, argument, because Sarah Connor in the first movie absolutely looked like very feminine and woman like, and in the
Yeah.
second movie she was still feminine, she was still a mother, and she still looked like a woman. Yes, the actress went to the gym, and yes, she came very fit to this sequel, but the
Yeah.
reason was because the character already understood between the first and second movie, she understood that she basically is raising a guy that's going to be saving humanity and will be like this military leader. And if she doesn't learn all these things, and if she doesn't step up her game, and if she isn't fit, and if she isn't ready to teach him all of this stuff, then he won't be able to do this kind of thing that he needs to do, be this kind of military general. So for her to actually go through this development would make sense, which is why I wrote Sarah Connor always looked and acted feminine, and getting into shape was a legitimate part of her character development. It would make sense that this is the route that she went through. And this in no way looks like that Star Wars thing.
Right, and it also helps that they weren't arguing constantly about gender differences in the movies either, which made her such a likable character. Okay,
She was a
that's the
protective mother. She was
yeah,
feminine, and there's enough shots that you can see her. And not only does she look like a woman, she actually is a, she's an appealing woman. She's
a
not.
beautiful woman.
You're right. She has a very kind of unique look, and I don't think anybody looks at her and think, oh, like she looks like a boy. I don't think I've met anybody that's seen Linda Hamilton in Terminator 1 or 2 and thought that she looked like a awkward little boy. I've never met one. And yet everybody thinks that of this Star Wars game, and they're all making the excuses. And I see when you dig up, and also Grums has been digging up. I was paying more attention to it now that that you show these kind of developers that you find tweets from a year or two ago when they thought people weren't looking, and they're talking about how they don't like white people and about privilege and about this and that and the social justice. It's like,
Yeah,
get the sorry, I don't want to say a bad word. Get the f out of here. We don't want you. Like, nobody wants this crap. The fact that you like social justice has nothing to do with video games.
yeah,
It's
no,
always fine to be more diverse, and make sure if you're hiring some people not to close off something, meaning keep an open mind. And if there's people of different backgrounds, if they're fit for a role, it's good. It's good to keep an open mind. It's not. I don't think that you should look at roles and say no, we can't have diversity here. I
right.
don't think that that's what you should do. But to be so obsessed, and when you sit around and when you use all these terms of social justice this and social justice that and blah blah blah, you're not coming from a good place. You're not
No,
coming from a
definitely
good
not.
place.
No. And people are not stupid, okay? I think it's so dumb when they keep using that stupid argument. It's like Sigourney Weaver, Linda Hamilton, you guys would be calling them woke. No, we would not.
No,
Those were great stories, great characters. They had wonderful themes and storytelling arcs. Like, they weren't arguing about stupid gender differences. They weren't talking about how evil white people are. There
right.
was nothing like that. These people that are arguing about this stuff, they have no idea what they're talking about, and they've never even seen these movies. They're just looking up these Google examples, because anybody who's seen a movie with Sigourney Weaver, or seen Alien and enjoyed it, or seen Terminator 2 and enjoy it, would never say this. They would
Never
never
say it.
say it.
Never say it. They haven't seen it. Yeah, somebody actually asked me. Somebody said, "Did they even watch this movie?" And I said, "Probably not. They probably never watch these movies. They just, these are kind of these straw man arguments, this kind of gaslighting thing, and
Yeah,
it's not helping them. It's just so annoying. I run into I've run into another thing, and this is something we didn't discuss, but I'll just quickly go over it. That
sure.
there was some person that was obsessed about doing all these posts about Gina Carano, and I just answered him because this group of people, what they're trying to say is that look at what a loser Gina Carano is. Disney is great, and look what a loser. They asked to dismiss the case because Disney went to court and said they want to throw out Gina Carano's case. And they did it in a really crappy way, that they're saying that, she violated their First Amendment right or something. She didn't violate anything. You're a bunch of jerks. You know what I mean? It's just
They're a
so
bunch of bullies, and
right.
it's
They're
so
the ones that
sad.
violated it. They're trying to flip the script on her. So you have all these weird shills. Sometimes I think they're bots or whatever it is, but let's just say they're real people that for some reason want to protect a multi-billion-dollar corporation. So they're like, oh, look at her now. She's like, her career is over. Like, she doesn't make any money. She's like, the way they're talking about her, you think that she lives on the street and she's like a bum. Meanwhile, she's going to conventions that I was involved in the past in different conventions, even talent that goes to conventions. So I can
Mhm.
tell you that there is real money to be made at a convention like this. And Gina Carano, in almost every convention that I've seen, has a line that's like across everything. There are people waiting in line for hours to take pictures with her. And if you just look at the type of numbers and the type of things that are going around there, every time she arrives at a convention and they're asking her, can you come another day? Can you come another day? She's walking out of there with real money. So they're like, oh, it's a
Yeah.
temporary arrangement. You know what? Forever she can go and collect money. First of all, yes, she can go for a long time and collect money, and it's not like $2. And the way these people are talking, it's like, oh, like you think she lives on the street. And they're like, oh, she made a movie with the Daily Wire and it wasn't a success. It wasn't released to theaters. They put it on their direct to streaming. The agreement she had is that they paid her a nice sum of money. Whatever happened with that movie, she walked away with money. I've never seen a situation
Wow.
that somebody's making millions of dollars and you have these people whining online. And at the end, I wrote to one of them, I'm like, well, she's making more money than you are. And he's like, oh, of course she is. I wasn't saying that. But if she wanted to be a real actress, look at what her career looks like now. Now she has to go to conventions and get paid. I'm like, dude, you're just
They're just
dumb idiot.
making things up. Oh my
Dumb idiot.
goodness.
Real people like this. I've seen some of the dumbest idiots, and either they block you or and I think I told you this. They make an argument, you refute it. They make an argument, you refute it, and then they keep making the same argument over and over again. And it's like, it's not going to help you. You already look stupid. You can't make the same argument over and over again. That's not how a debate works.
Fair enough. Oh, Tim Hayes asks, you must have a unique talent or talents then, price of reason, to have been working at conventions.
Uh, I don't know if I have a unique talent. It was more that I uh, was surrounded by people that perhaps had talent. I myself wasn't a person. I wasn't signing people's autographs. If that's what you're wondering, they're not coming to see me sign autographs. I
Well,
mean,
not yet.
not yet, not yet. One day, you and I are going to be sitting at a convention, and
I know, like, you're actually going to be a fish guy in a crown, and I'm just going to be in my jacket. Like, wow, I never expected this was reality, Price.
you know what? If there's a situation that I have the type of lines that Gina Carano has, and you do too, I'll be myself. I'll just sit there and you know what? I'll make friends with people. I'll forego the whole
It's like, my name's
online,
Hank.
yeah, the whole confidential thing.
No, I think you know, it'd be so funny. I bring an iPad with me to a convention, and it just has your fish face on it, and then you're just like, "Hey, everybody, it's me, Price of Reason."
I'm happy that you said that when I spoke like that Southern guy. You said I did a good job.
Yeah.
That was the best thing that you told me today. That you said that it was good.
Oh, dude, that's gonna be a highlight in the stream for sure, because it's just like you just switch to this like different person all of a sudden.
Finally, I did something good.
Yeah.
Oh, so wait, going back to the thing. Okay, so we have the Star Wars. We have they want the protagonist. Of course, it's a woman because it's Kathleen Kennedy. Somehow, it always has to be
Yeah.
a woman. Somehow, I know she's not really in charge of the game, but still, somebody has to sign off on it. Of course, the woman is the protagonist, and of course, she doesn't look good. Those are the two the requirements. They have to do that. And then
Yeah.
Tomb Raider, they want to ruin that too. Is there anything else they're ruining? And they're attacking Grums. Anything else they're
They're
ruining?
attacking, yeah, they're accusing Grums of scamming people out of thousands of dollars, which was proven false when I joined his Discord. Asmongold is pushing hard against DEI. And he's paying very, very close attention. And the reason I point out Asmongold is because of just how influential he is in the gaming space. So his word really does matter to a lot of people in the space, and so to see him coming out against this stuff is really helpful. It's just good that that kind of word is reaching people, and they're not exactly writing it off as a possibility, because it's becoming such a huge problem. And when you have like executives at Microsoft saying, "Hey, we need you to take the proportions off of your women characters and not make them beautiful," constantly remind them like, "Hey, is your character too pretty? Well, make her less pretty." It's just ridiculous. So I see big names coming out and taking sides. It's not always a good thing. The media is absolutely not on the sides of gamers or just people in general. The enemy of the people, in my opinion. But they're always, it doesn't even matter what it could be or who's saying what. If it is against Grums, against gamers, and against the pushback against DEI, they are on that side, period. And I've seen many examples of that. Even if their beliefs completely contradict each other otherwise, as long as they are on the same page of gamers are evil, and then in some cases white male gamers are evil, which by the way, there are many cases like that, then yeah, you can tell for sure that they are taking sides. So I think it's just, I think we're reaching a boiling point, but I think is same as before. Vote with your wallet. Make an informed decision based on what you see. You know, like if you had to ask me, and this is not like a professional financial advice or anything, but you know, I would not want to play a game made by a company that thinks so little of a complexion of a certain complexion. I can't get behind that. I can't get behind belittling one demographic to prop up another. And the fact that that is even a thing that is considered by some of the biggest companies in the industry is a huge issue, a big issue. So
Right, right. I mean, it's like it's the same thing that we've been seeing for so many years in so many different things, and they're not willing to let this thing go, and they're not willing to move forward in a way that really is inclusive, or whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
I've always, I probably have said it on this show also a number of times. It's one thing to say, "Hey, we're all equals. Let's move forward. Let's all be friends, and let's treat each other nicely." That's a message that I'm 100% behind. 100%. I have no issue with that message. That is perfectly fine. But they're always looking for the thing of, "Well, we're not happy. It must be because of those white people." And that is really an issue. And the fact it's not just in some secret room in some corridor somebody is saying that. It's like you said, somebody like a CEO and people with suits and ties come out and say, "Well, you know, them whites." And usually it's like a white woman saying it.
yeah, like the head of communication, like the global head of marketing for Xbox said that stuff.
Yeah, she's like, "Well,
Com-
well,
community managers, you
them
know.
whites are at it again. What are all
Oh my
those
goodness.
minorities going to do now?" And it's like, "Bitch, shut up." It's-
Well, it's just it's so it's so horrible. It is horrible. These are prominent positions. Like I'm not just pulling we are not just pulling random people off Twitter. Like we're finding just crazy amounts of game developers, community managers are, man, they suck. They suck right now. I don't like community managers right now. Um, and game developers, artists, it's like I've seen like the CEO of no, the lead writer of Borderlands 3. Dude, this stuff is just oh, and by the way, some of these people who are pushing this stuff have been in the industry for like 20 plus years. I've reported on a couple of these people who used to work on games like South Park, and yet they harbor
oh,
such
I saw that.
hatred.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a deep-seated hatred, and it's almost like they work hard, they get into their positions, and then all of a sudden they just push all these ideas out, and they're like, "Well, it's my personal idea for looking out for Black women, et cetera, et cetera." But there are so many websites who push the exact same idea. It all feels so coordinated. And even though I haven't touched quite upon it, I'm finding out about Bridge stuff. And if you're curious about Bridge, Google what Bridge is. Just Google like Bridge DEI, and things will start to open up for you. I'm looking into it myself. I think I'm a little late to the game on that one, but dude, this thing is just like I think, and I've said this before, but it's going to be a while before we root out all of these people. Exposing them is the best thing to do, but we've got a long way to go for
M-
sure.
By the way, this I don't know if you've been I don't know, did we talk about it? That trailer for that Borderlands movie looks
Oh
awful.
yeah, looks like trash.
It looks
Looks
so
like trash.
awful.
Like everyone's phoning in their lines. Like Claptrap is some kind of weird pervert who's just like humping stuff. Okay, like Kate Blanchett looks completely uninterested as a much older version of the
Yeah, I
Firehawk
mean,
Lilith.
it was supposed to be a young lady, and she's kind of. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kate Blanchett is a good actress, but let's be real, she's not a young actress. Okay. I'm not 20, and she's perfectly fine for me. I'm not saying like I'm not saying she's an old hag or anything like that.
Yeah.
But in this specific movie, I think it was supposed to be like a 20-something year old girl, that's kind
Wow.
of hot, and I feel like this is a completely different direction here.
Yeah, like Kate Blanchett, like when she's in the trailer, it's just, there's two distinctly different personalities between the movie and the game. Because in this movie, I don't know what's going on with Kate Blanchett, but she looks so uninterested, just phoning and just like, man, I hate this planet. I hate this place. Oh, are we really going here? I'm like, what is this? This is so dumb. And then you have Kevin Hart, who's supposed to be like the extremely charismatic, like tall leader, who's the soldier, Roland. And what a great character he is in the game. Such a heroic character. Even goes out like a G, an absolute G. And but like Kevin Hart, I'm not on board with this movie. Look at that. Yeah, there you go. There's the cast. It's just like, dude, Kate Blanchett looks so out of place with her hair, and it's just weird, man.
It looks really bad. It looks
And then
n-
Tina, oh,
it looks like
I,
nobody wants to be here, just like you said. Like these people are just collecting their checks. There's something about it that just seems lifeless, soulless, even in the trailer. And this
yeah,
isn't even something that I can blame a DEI or whatever. It just doesn't look good. It looks like looks like they wanted to make some kind of Suicide Squad type of movie, but it doesn't seem fun, and it doesn't seem
yeah.
like any of these actors are having fun, and it just doesn't look good. I mean, I'm always, as a reviewer, willing to give something a chance, and when it comes out as a reviewer, maybe I'll look at it. But it doesn't. It certainly doesn't. I'm not sold on it based on the trailer, not by a long shot.
No. No, I would need to see way more, and I would absolutely need to see these characters try to come into their roles, because boy, oh boy.
I agree, and I mean, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yes, sir.
We had a lot of stuff going on. It's been this may be every time I say, oh, this may be our longest stream. I think this may have been our longest stream yet.
You're always right until you're not.
No, but you know what? There were so many great people that came to watch. I want to thank a lot of people. Some maybe wrote stuff. We were talking, and in some cases, maybe I didn't notice some of the messages. But Dempsey, Empress NM, we had Tim Hayes, we had Backyard TARDIS,
Yep.
Anya 866, uh, the
Also, do you know how
Wolfram
to
Heart.
delete those Rumble messages, or is that even a possible?
I don't know how to do. I don't know.
I'll look it up later.
Okay.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
Also,
there
hello
were
to
there.
all of you.
Sometimes we get some. You know what? We have to embrace even strange, trolly type of things. E. Clay Thompson. Um, but I know what you mean. Sometimes we get some weird messages. Um, we have E. Clay Thompson, Elijah Fire, Peter Yape, Yahala, Yoholo.
Yo-holo. And then
Yoholo.
Elijah Fire.
Yeah, Yoholo is somebody that came to our stream, wrote, "Who farted?" and disappeared.
Oh, it's probably my chair squeaking or something.
uh, yeah, I hopefully Mur Rockstraw. I didn't say that person's name before. Pure blood based berserker Stephen Mack.
Nice.
Reflections of War.
Quite a few people talking tonight.
Yeah, no, there's a Cognitive Nomad. Yeah, no, there was actually a lot of people talking, and you know what? I probably could have been more interactive, but we were so focused on our conversation that it was hard to kind of get away because sometimes, and Jay Goodwin, because sometimes when you get away and you start looking at these messages, you kind of lose your train of thought, and there was just so much stuff to go over today. But I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you, my awesome co-host Dread Roberts.
Yeah.
If you're not already, and I should have said this at the beginning, if you're not already subscribed to Dread Roberts, whatever platform you're listening to right now, I highly recommend his channel. You put in Dread Roberts, DreadRoberts, and whatever platform you're on, if you put that name in, you're going to find his page. Here on Rumble, there's certainly an account here, and you should subscribe. But he's in a lot of places, so just look it up, find him, and follow and subscribe. He makes wonderful videos about GamerGate, something that's happening now. A lot of important news, and if you want to stay on top of things, you should subscribe. So that was that. And aside from that, I'm Price of Reason. This has been really, really a pleasure. Thanks for giving us some of your time today to hang out with us and to go over all these kind of entertainment and gaming stories. We really enjoy bringing you these type of stories, and we'll be here again on Tuesday. This upcoming Tuesday, we'll be here again because we do this Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we'll be here again on Tuesday, and we'll see you then on the Night Owl. And for now, you guys, you all have a good night.
Good night, guys. See you next week.